Welcome. Wherever you are, whether it's nightfall behind a window pane, or a quiet afternoon filled with soft light, you're invited now to let go, to release the grip of the day, and allow your breath to lengthen, your thoughts to grow slow, and your body to grow still. Let your shoulders soften, let your hands rest loosely by your side, let your eyes drift or close. There's nothing you need to do, no detail you need to remember, no names to memorize. This journey will carry you, gently, across centuries. Whether you follow every word or drift in and out like clouds crossing a forgotten sky, the past will continue calm, steady, and so, let the world around you fade bit by bit. The rustle of the present recedes, the hum of electric light, the quiet weight of walls, the patterns of your room, all of it grows quiet. It doesn't vanish, but it becomes softer, lighter. Now, in the distance, something else stirs. A different rhythm, an older warmth, a world not gone, only waiting. Breathe in deeply, slowly, and as you do, imagine the air growing warmer, richer. You are stepping into a different place now, into a forest that breathes, into a time thick with memory and silence. This is the lowland jungle of Mesoamerica. Long before the modern borders of Guatemala, Honduras, Belize, and Mexico were drawn, long before asphalt roads carved their way through canopies, long before cameras and maps and satellites, this place thrived. It was never empty, it was never primitive. It pulsed with life, human and divine, ordinary and sacred, woven together like vines across ancient stone. You're walking now through soft soil, your feet sinking slightly into the dampness beneath. The scent of crushed greenery, wet bark, and faint wood smoke lingers on the breeze. Somewhere ahead, a fire crackles low, its smoke winding upward in lazy spirals, fading into dense green shadow. Birds call from unseen branches above. Their cries are sharp but distant, softened by the layered hush of leaves. Insects sing in steady tones, not alarming, but rhythmic like tiny instruments, in a vast, hidden orchestra. And somewhere farther still, perhaps a monkey cries out a low, echoing howl that seems to stretch the very air. You've arrived at a Maya village, but this is not a city of pyramids and kings, at least, not yet. This is the world of the many, the quiet daily hum of life beneath the canopy, the heartbeat of a civilization made not by monuments, but by the millions of hands that planted, shaped, built, and believed. The homes around you are low and broad, built from wood and clay, their roofs thick with palm fronds. They breathe with the heat. Their walls are dappled with filtered light, their interiors cool and dim. Chickens dart across the patsa, dogs stretch out in dusty shade. Here, life is not fast, but it is not easy. Every hour holds a task, every season a ritual, every act, from eating to speaking, is touched by spirit. The gods are not distant, they are present in the soil, in the rain, in the breath of your children. Tonight, we will follow the rhythm of this ancient world, not as a tourist, not as a spectator, but as a visitor, quiet, careful, and humble. We will begin with the villagers, whose lives were bound to the rising sun and the grinding stone. You'll wake with them, before dawn, and follow the slow cycle of a single dish shaping corn into life, honoring ancestors with every breath, and offering blood to gods older than the hills. Then, we'll drift through the corridors of time to one extraordinary ruler, Kayinik, Janab Pakal, the sleeping king of Palenque. Crowned as a child, builder of temples, dreamer of stars, his story is one of legacy etched into limestone and sealed beneath a pyramid's heart. From there, the jungle thickens once more, as we approach something more mysterious. The lost city of Elmi. Beneath layers of vine and centuries of silence, this ancient metropolis hides its secret sits, vast roads, its stucco masks, and the quiet puzzle of its disappearance. Finally, we'll ascend softly, ceremonially into the rarefied world of the elite, into the stone courtyards where nobles drink chocolate from painted vessels, consult with astronomer priests, and prepare for ritual games where the stakes are life and death. Feathers shimmer, obsidian gleams, the divine dancers on the edge of human hands. It is a journey not of conquest, but of attention, of stillness, of listening. The Maya world was not merely grand, it was intricate, fragile and powerful all at once, and even in ruins, even in sleep, its rhythm continues. So now, let your breath slow once more. Let your mind settle like dust on an old stone floor. The night is long, the jungle is wide, and the story will unfold whether you stay awake or not. This world is ancient, but not dead. Its echoes are in the stars above your head, in the soil beneath your feet, and in the quiet unfolding of this moment. So, come. Step carefully. Step slowly. We are going back between the leaves of time. You awaken before the sun, not to an alarm clock or a glowing screen, but to a subtle shift in the world around you. The first sensation is the heaviness of the air, still, thick, and warm, even before the light returns. The scent of clay, smoke, and woven mat lingers close to your face. Somewhere beyond the reed walls of your home, the jungle breathes. The sounds of the night are slowly retreating. The chirps of nocturnal insects fade into silence, and the howls of monkeys have softened into distant, guttural echoes. A bird, a shashalaka, perhaps scores from the canopy with a sharp, rising rhythm. It is not a song, exactly, but a proclamation. Day is coming. You roll your mat quietly, careful not to wake the youngest. Your body is stiff from the coolness of the night air and the firmness of the packed earth beneath the mat. There is no mattress here, no cushion, but you're used to a Torah at least. The body learns to adapt. Your first task is not spoken, it is known. The same every morning. You move to the hearth, kneeling beside it. The fire has gone cold, but not dead. Beneath the ashes, glowing coals remain faint, red embers that pulse gently with life. You stir them slowly, feeding in small pieces of dried wood. The flames return in silence. No dramatic crackling, just the low, soft whisper of warmth returning. The flickering light reveals the shape of your home, round or rectangular, depending on the region. The walls are woven from wooden poles, packed with clay. The roof curves overhead, made from palm leaves, layered thick to keep the rain out. The floor is the earth itself, swept clean each day, pressed hard by generations of footsteps. There is no furniture, but there is order. In one corner sits a grinding stone, the matate, where corn will be prepared soon. Near the wall, small clay bowls are stacked with care. There are sleeping mats, carefully rolled, woven baskets filled with gourds, a few tools, a gourd of water, and just to the side of the hearth, a low platform of stone. This is the family altar. It is not elaborate, but it is sacred. A few small figurines, perhaps, the maize god, or a local ancestor, along with offerings, feathers, dried flowers, smooth stones, a curl of copal resin ready to burn. You bow your head briefly. Not as ritual, but as reflex. Here, the gods are not distant. They are in the hearth, in the roof beams, in the corners of the home. They must be honored with every act, every breath. As the fire grows stronger, others begin to stir. Your mother wraps a cloth around her waist and gathers maize from a storage basket. It has already been soaked overnight in lime water, a vital step in unlocking its nutrients. Now it must be ground. She kneels at the metate and begins the familiar rhythm, stone against stone, a slow rocking motion that echoes through the morning silence. You step outside. The air is cool. Briefly, the light has not yet broken through the treetops, but the forest is no longer dark. The village is stirring. Thin columns of smoke rise above every roof. Dogs stretch, chickens cluck softly, children blink. In the half-light, you fetch water from the nearby cenote. The path is uneven, littered with leaves and small stones. You walk barefoot, every bend, every root that juts from the ground. You pass neighbors doing the same. No one speaks yet. Words come later. This part of the day belongs to silence. You carry the water back in a gourd, carefully, balanced. You've done it since you were old enough to lift it. The rope across your shoulders is worn smooth from daily use. Back home, your younger sibling is sweeping the floor with a bundle of palm fronds tied together. It's a practiced motion, short, quick strokes from one side of the home to the other. Dust and leaves are pushed out the door, where they will become part of the earth again. Nearby, the family's turkeys scratch in the dirt. A small pig grunts quietly as it sniffs near the hearth. These animals are not pets. They are part of the household economy, carefully raised, rarely eaten except during important ceremonies. Their presence is common, expected, woven into the fabric of the day. By now the grinding continues. In the background, the smell of corn heating on the komal, the flat clay griddle, begins to drift through the air. It is a scent both nourishing and sacred. This is not breakfast as you know it. There is no rush, no shit. There is only corn, in one of its many forms, perhaps as mash, or as small cakes. Occasionally, if beans are available, they're mashed and mixed in. chili, crushed into a paste with salt, might be served if the harvest was good. There is little variety, but there is reverence. You do not eat simply to live. You eat to honor the maize itself, fixing the very substance of human flesh, according to Maya belief. The Parpulva, the sacred book of the Kashmaya, tells us that humans were fashioned from corn, not clay, not wood, but corn. You are not just eating it. You are returning to your origins. As the food is shared, a low prayer is murmured. To the gods, to the ancestors, to the fire. The sun begins to rise now. Light breaks through the trees in slanted gold. The day has begun in full. The village is fully awake. And you are already tired. Because this world demands everything. Your hands, your sweat, your voice, your faith. And the sun has only just risen. The first warmth of the morning has begun to stir the earth. Mist lingers just above the ground, curling around your ankles like breath from the underworld. Dew beads on the palm leaves that make up the roof of your home, and a faint golden light presses through the narrow slats in the Waterlandob walls. Inside, the air is thick with the faint, familiar smells of yesterday's smoke, drying herbs, and warm clay. You hear the gentle scrape of stone on stone, and you know it has already begun. Your mother, perhaps your grandmother, has risen earlier than most. By now, she is seated on a folded mat beside the hearth. Before her lies a heavy stone tool, cool and ancient. It is a matete smooth from generations of use. She holds a handheld stone mano, pressing the softened kernels of maize into the surface of the slab in a steady rhythm. Push, pull, push, pull. The sound is hypnotic. Not sharp or harsh, but constant, like waves rolling in a shallow cove. But before this moment before, grinding there was another process. One your ancestors discovered long ago, with patience and fire. The maize was not simply cooked, it was transformed. The night before, the kernels were soaked in a special bath of water and cal, or lime calcium hydroxide. This ancient method, called nix, it releases the nutrients otherwise hidden in the grain. It makes the meal not just food, but medicine, strength, survival. Without this process, your bones would ache, your children would weaken. It is invisible science, inherited by memory, and it matters more than you can know. Now, as the sun lifts higher above the trees, and the parrots begin their shrill conversation in the canopy, the nixtamalized maize is slowly being ground into a fine paste. The heat from the fire nearby makes the process all the more difficult. Her back is bent, her arms, sinewy from repetition, work in practiced rhythm. Push, pull. The smell is earthy, like warm tortillas and damp stones. This is how the day begins every day. And yet this act is more than preparation. It is more than duty. It is sacred. You see, in Maya cosmology, maize is not merely food. It is being, according to the Popol Vuh, the great book of counsel and myth, humans were not made of clay, nor of wood. These attempts failed. They crumbled, broke, were washed away. But the gods succeeded when they formed people from Mositha sacred corn dough. Then they put into words the creation, the formation of our first mother and father. Of yellow corn and white corn they made their flesh. Of cornmeal dough they made their arms and legs. Popol Vuh, you are made of corn. Not figuratively, but entirely. Your ancestors told you this story not as metaphor, but as origin. Corn is in your blood, your breath, your memory. And so, as the paste becomes pliable and warm, and small cakes are shaped and placed upon the Kamala clay griddle, you are not simply preparing breakfast. You are rehearsing a creation story. One you taste with each bite. The cakes are not seasoned. There is no salt, no spice, no luxury. Only the gentle bitterness of earth, softened by fire. Some are wrapped in leaves. Others are served in carved wooden bowls, alongside a thick drink perhaps, maybe cacao or atole, the warming maize beverage. The family eats together, seated low to the ground. Children receive smaller portions. Elders are served first. There is no talking at this hour, only chewing, and the sound of clay cups being set down gently on earth. You can smell the faint steam as it curls up from your food. You can feel the rough weave of the mat under your knees. You can taste the ever so slight tamps of lime in the corn. You do not think about what comes next, because what has come before matters more. And so, the morning the stomach is filled, but not heavy. There is still work to do, fields to tend, water to fetch, prayers to murmur, and always more corn to grind. Maize is not just sustenance here. It is memory. It is time itself, ground slowly each day on the stone of tradition. Push, pull. The rhythm continues long after you've eaten, long after you've forgotten the taste, even long after you sleep again. The sun is rising higher now. It is no longer gentle. Its light sharpens as it spills across the tree, slipping like molten gold through the high canopy, catching the fronds and branches and sending trembling shadows to the earth below. The jungle, which hummed and breathed all through the long night, is shifting into its daytime rhythm. The deep-voiced howler monkeys, who roared before the light, now fall quiet, their calls replaced by the clicking, chattering voices of birds and the constant, whispering percussion of insect wings. You rise slowly from where you crouched near the hearth, brushing the clay from your knees, wiping a thin line of ash across your calf. You have already eaten something small and simple. A warm, folded tortilla, a mouthful of beans, a drink from a gourd, enough to fill you, but not to slow you. Now it is time to go. You carry your tools, a worn digging stick darkened from use, a heavy, stone-headed hoe, smooth where your father's hands held it before yours, a few folded leaves with seeds inside, damp with morning dew. You walk alongside your family, your brothers, your uncles, perhaps your mother carries tools too. There are always many hands in the milpa, many roles to fill. The path winds away from the village, carved softly into the earth by generations of footsteps. The trees arch above you, vast and ancient. Some trunks are the width of 3 men together, their roots like ripples in the soil. Vines hang low, and orchids bloom overhead in little bursts of white and purple. You walk in silence. There is no need to speak. Ahead lies your field, but it is not what you might imagine. There are no fences, no neat furrows, no wide, tilled acres. What you come to is something more humble, more wild and more wise. A word not quite it is often called a field, but that is not enough. Milpa is a cycle, a covenant, a rhythm played out over years, even decades. The Maya do not take from the earth without listening. To begin a milpa, the forest must be asked. Permission is sought through ritual, through incense and offering. The men cut back a patch of growth by hand slowly, carefully. Saplings, shrubs, underbrush. The older trees are often left standing like guardians. Then the brush is allowed to dry beneath the sun for weeks, until it is brittle and brown. Only then is it burned, releasing nutrients into the shallow soil. A ritual of ash, a preparation of rebirth. And, after the burning, the planting begins. This is not monoculture. It is not rows and sameness. It is harmony. Corn, beans, and squashixim, the 3 sisters. Maize grows tall, reaching toward the sun, with strong stalks that anchor the field. Beans wind their way up the corn, clinging for support, offering back nitrogen to the earth. Squash sprawls low, its broad leaves shading the ground, keeping moisture in, pushing weeds out. Together, they nourish the soil. Together, they feed your people. You arrive now at the edge of this land. It is quiet. The birds are farther away. You hear the flutter of leaves, the sigh of the trees, the faint hum of cicadas building, and the work begins. You set your digging stick into the earth, chuck, chuck, chuck over and over. The soil here is thin, and below it lies limestone. You must be careful, precise. You open holes, one by one, and drop the seeds in corn first, then beans and squash. You cover them gently, as though putting them to sleep. Beside you, others swing stone hoes, turning the soil, clearing the ground. The rhythm is steady. The tools are heavy, but the motion is familiar. Your arms ache, but your body knows what to do. The sweat comes quickly. It stings your eyes. It beads on your shoulders, your chest, your spine. Your cotton tunic clings to your ribs. The sun has climbed past the trees now and hangs above you like a great burning disk. The air is thick, like breathing through wool. Around you, life rustles and stirs. Lizards dart under stones. Insects crawl across your ankles. The humidity wraps around you like a second skin. You feel a sting, a sharp itching bite. Chiggers, invisible, relentless. You slap your leg, too late, on your neck, under your belt. But you do not stop. You cannot. Farming here is not merely a job, it is devotion. Each swing of the hoe is an act of gratitude. Each seed planted is a conversation with time. And still, the jungle watches. From the trees, a serpent slithers silently along a low branch, its green scales, nearly invisible in the foliage. A monkey screams high above, then crashes away. The shadows move with purpose. Nothing here is still. Nothing here is ever silent. You pause for a moment, kneel, wipe the soil from your palms. Look around you. The milpa is not only food, it is the foundation of your society. From this land comes sustenance, yes, but also ceremony. From this soil comes maize, and from maize, humanity. In your stories, your gods formed people from corn dough. They tried other materials, mud, wood, but only maize gave breath and spirit. You are not just eaters of corn, and so, under this sweltering sun, in this patch of ashy reborn soil, you work not only to survive but to participate in the rhythm of creation itself. You are young. Or maybe you are old. It does not matter. Your hands are dirty, your arms are sore, but you are not alone. Around you, your family moves like a quiet machine, a living prayer, a promise renewed with each dawn, and slowly, the day moves forward. The sun now stands heavy and tall. Its golden light stretches long across the clearing, glinting off polished stones, soaking the clay walls in warmth. A breeze stirs the palm thatch above, and somewhere perhaps just behind your shoulder you hear the quiet chime of a bird call, high and distant. You have returned from the fields. The sweat has dried on your skin. Your fingers still carry the smell of soil, yet as you step back toward the shelter of your home, your thoughts do not remain in the field, because for the Maya, nothing is ever just physical. Every act has meaning layered beneath it. Every gesture echoes into the world beyond. Life is never separate from belief. There is no line between the sacred and the ordinary. Even as you planted corn this morning, your hands were not alone. You felt it, didn't you? The eyes of gods among the leaves, the breath of ancestors in the soil. When the seeds were pressed into the earth, they were not only food for the body, they were offerings, gifts to the divine, contracts with nature. You planted maize, but you also planted a prayer. To the Maya, the world is full of layers, many skies, many underworlds, many directions. Each space is inhabited by spirits, by deities, by forces that can be called upon, appeased, thanked, and they must be. Because life is fragile, and life is borrowed. You step into your house now, simple but sacred. It is not large. Its walls are made of woven sticks coated in clay. The roof is thatched from palm fronds. But this is not just shelter. This is a place of memory. Near the center, beside the hearth, you pass a low altar. It holds nothing grand, no gold, no jewels, but you pause, just slightly, as you always do. There, nestled in woven cloth, are clay figurines, small bowls of copal resin, dried flowers, fragments of bone. Perhaps there is a shell, a feather, a piece of obsidian, and beneath your feet, beneath the packed clay floor, lie the bones of your grandmother, or your grandfather, or someone far older still, because here, in this house, the dead remain. Maya homes are built not only for the living but around the sleeping presence of those who came before. Ancestors are not gone. They are here in the corners of the room, in the dreams of children, in the whispers that ride on firelight. You do not fear them, you honor them. Each meal you eat, each fire you tend, is seen, is shared. And then, sometimes, when the time is right, something more is given. A gift of the self, a breath turned into offering, a thread of pain, offered to the gods with steady hands and closed eyes. This is bloodletting, and it is not cruel. It is not violence. It is sacrifice in the truest sense to make sacred. Not everyone participates, but the leaders, the nobles, the scribes, they do, and so do certain elders, priests, midwives. Those who stand closer to the veil between this world and the next. The act begins in stillness. There is incense always. Incense. White smoke curls in the air, thick and sweet, drawn from copal resin burning on stone. The scent is ancient, earthy, cleansing. There are prayers, chanted softly. There are offerings laid out, maize, cacao, feathers. A stingray spine is held delicately in the hand, or perhaps an obsidian shard. And then, slowly, with care and composure, a small cut is made. Not to punish, not to harm, but to release, to let go. Blood is drawn not from the arms or the chest, but often from places of spiritual significance, ears, tongues, even genitals. The blood is collected on bark paper, sometimes passed through woven cords. It is then burned, the smoke rising upward like a thread connecting human and God. Pain, yes, but not suffering. The act is one of concentration, of meditation, of purity, and for those who do this, it is a moment of becoming, because the gods themselves once bled. They opened their own bodies to bring forth rain, corn, stars. To echo them is to join them. Even children understand this, not with fear but with reverence, with quiet wonder. And so, belief is not a thing you visit on holy days. It is not something stored in temples alone. It is something you live in every gesture, every breath, every step of your bare foot on the warm, brown earth. You light a fire, you thank the flame. You drink water, you honor the stream. You pass beneath a tree, you nod to its spirit. You fall asleep, you whisper to the gods who guard the stars. This is not superstition. It is relationship, a conversation with everything around you, a constant remembering that the world is not yours alone. The sun now sits high in the sky, directly overhead, an invisible anvil pressing down on the village, on the trees, on the skin of all living things. The air thickens with heat. The forest hushes save for the steady, distant chorus of cicadas rising in waves, like breath moving in and out of a sleeping giant. This is the sacred stillness of midday, and in this stillness, another rhythm begins. You step away from the fields. The ash from the morning's fire clings faintly to your hands. Your limbs are heavy, your face damp, your feet red from the soil. The day's labor has only just begun its arc. And yet, now is the time to pause, to cleanse, to enter the heat, and emerge renewed. Ahead lies a low, dome-like structure, small, earthen, humble. It resembles a stone that grew from the jungle floor. You approach it barefoot, reverently. The Maya Sweat Lodge. It is built with intention woven from bent saplings, covered in thick layers of adobe clay and ash. A living womb of earth and fire. The entrance is small and circular, requiring you to stoop low, to humble yourself before entering. A symbolic return to the origin. You step through, and the world changes. Inside, it is dark close. The only light comes from faint flickers, a glowing ember, a shaft of sun through a gap in the clay. Around you, family and neighbors sit in silence. Some are elderly, some young, some quiet with grief, others whispering prayers into their hands. There is no rush, no need for words. You settle down onto the smooth, earthen floor. The walls curve in around you like arms. The sweat lodge is not only for the body, it is for the soul. Near the center, a pit holds ancient stones, volcanic, pitted, still warm from the fire that kissed them outside. A healer, perhaps a grandmother with hands like river bark brings, in a bowl of water steeped with fresh herbs, basil, chia, copal resin, even wild marigold. The smell is sharp, green, ancient. She pours it gently onto the hot stones. Hesses, the steam rises at once, thick, wet, sacred. The heat envelops you. Beads of sweat bloom on your forehead, on your chest, along your spine. You close your eyes. You breathe in the forest. You breathe out fatigue. You are not merely sweating. You are releasing sorrow, ache, memory, burden. The heat invites it all to rise and leave you. In the Temescal, the body is purified. Yes, but so is the breath, the thought, the wound that cannot be seen. This space heals what medicine cannot. Perhaps someone begins to chant, low and repetitive, like the breath of the earth. Maybe it's a song passed down for generations, it's words long since forgotten by outsiders, but still echoing in the bones. Or perhaps there is only silence, broken now and then by the creak of a body shifting, or the slow, careful drip of sweat falling onto packed clay. Time stretches, dissolves. You feel the border between skin and air blur. You are no longer entirely yourself. You are part of the steam, part of the circle, part of something older than words. And then, as gently as it began, it ends. You step outside. The light strikes you softly at first, filtered by leaves and sky. Your skin prickles in the air, damp and cleansed. The sun has moved slightly across the sky, but everything feels different. The world is sharper, cooler. Your breath comes easier. The sweat lodge does not make you new. It returns you to who you've always been. Now, you walk home, slowly, feet brushing soft, dirt paths, eyes half-lidded from the heat. Around you others do the same. Some smile faintly, others are quiet. The village is subdued. This is the hour of rest. Children drift into hammocks, curled like small animals. Grandparents sit beneath the eaves, telling quiet stories not meant to be finished spoken. The fires are low, the shadows stretch longer, a breeze picks up, just enough to stir the palm leaves above. A bird calls once, then silence again. You settle in too. Maybe you lie on a woven mat in the corner of your home, where the sun falls through a hole in the thatched roof like liquid gold. Maybe you sway gently in a hammock, rocked by the wind and the creak of its ropes. A bowl of cool water sits nearby. A dog sleeps at your feet. There is nothing to do now, nothing to chase. The world has narrowed to breath and warmth and stillness. Even your thoughts grow quiet. Someone hums nearby. A lullaby without words. A song that speaks to the bones, not the ears. You feel your body sink. Your muscles melt. The boundary between waking and dreaming grows thin. This is the sacred silence of midday, and the Maya honored it not as laziness, but as balance, as a sacred pause between the morning's fire and the evening's return. The jungle, too, rests. Shadows stretch. Flowers close. The whole world seems to sigh and sleep, and yet you drift with it. The day softens now, like a fire banking low beneath ash. The long limbs of the jungle stretch into the evening, and the heat begins to lift slowly, like a mist releasing from the skin. Shadows draw longer over the hard-packed clay. Roosters quiet. Smoke climbs gently from small hearths. And in this in-between hour, when labor is momentarily still, the village exhales. It is in this lull that the children emerge again, no longer pressed to chores or hushed by elders. They scatter like sparks from the evening fire, voices fluttering into the twilight air. Their bare feet kiss the earth with every step. Some still carry the scent of roasted maize on their fingers. Others wear streaks of charcoal across their cheeks, evidence of a playful scrape or a game imagined. There is no sharp line dividing work and play in this world. For Maya children, life is a gentle schooling by example and story, where everything one does has purpose, spirit, and shape. Long before their first game is played or story is heard, a Maya child's life begins under the watchful gaze of gods and calendars. Each birth is woven into the sacred thread of time. The Maya do not simply mark the passing of days, they live inside to intertwining calendars. The Tez, a 260-day ceremonial cycle of gods, numbers, and symbols, and the Hob, the 365-day solar calendar that guides the rhythm of agriculture and life. A child's naming is not a casual act, it is an act of cosmology. Their name is given based on the Tizokan day on which they arrive. That day determines not only their title, but their destiny, their personality, their future path, the kind of spirit that will accompany them through life. A girl born under the day of Cain might carry the essence of yellow maize, ripening and sweet. A boy born on a jaw might bear the weight of leadership, sunlight, and sacrifice. And so, from the moment a child first draws breath, they are not only a child of their mother and father but of the cosmos. In infancy, the body itself is shaped to reflect the sacred ideals of beauty and nobility. It is not painful, but it is purposeful. Cradle boards are gently fastened to the heads of some infants, to guide the soft skull into a noble slopan elongated forehead, like that of the maize god, a marker of distinction. It is done with love and reverence, not cruelty. Teeth may be filed into points, echoing the jaguar's strength, or inlaid with precious jade materials sacred to the Maya, linked to life, breath, and the after. These are not mere decoration. They are symbols, living proofs that the body, like the home or the altar, is a canvas upon which identity is carved. As children grow, their days unfold in a rhythm of imitation, observation, and delight. They play with dolls made from clay, some painted, others left plain crude, yet meaningful. The dolls may bear slanted foreheads, necklaces, or tiny wrap skirts, mimicking the elders around them. These are not mass-produced toys, but sacred echoes of adult roles, miniature mirrors of the world. Young ones fashion, spinning tops from polished fruit pits or shaped wood, twirling them across the dusty floor until they fall silent. Some craft blowguns, with hollowed reeds, aiming at banana leaves or carved targets. Others run barefoot through the village paths, chasing each other with shrieks of joy, leaping over stones, hiding behind tree trunks. And some, particularly the older children, rehearse the sacred ball game, known to adults as poked up. Not yet ready for the stone courts where the real game is played, children mimic the drama with a rubber ball, often made from chicle latex, bounced off hips or thighs. They draw crude goalposts with sticks or stones and chant exaggerated cheers. They know the stories. They've heard how the hero twins once descended into the underworld, facing death lords through cunning and sport. How the game is not merely a contest but a ritual, a bridge between worlds. Here, in this dusty version of the court, they enact the first steps of a myth older than empire. Their sweat is real, their play sincere. But under it all is the quiet shaping of identity as values, rules, hierarchy. There are no classrooms in the way we think of them. No desks, no scrolls, education is everywhere. A young boy learns to shape an obsidian blade, not by being told but by watching his uncle's fingers for 100 afternoons, then trying, failing, and trying again. A girl learns how to grind maize rhythmically on a matete stone over stone by crouching beside her mother, matching her breath and movement until it becomes second nature. They learn the names of the gods, not from written texts, but from whispered stories shared by grandparents in the fading light. They memorize myths and rituals, not by recitation, but by watching them unfold around the hearth, at the altar, during planting and rain. To be a child here is to absorb life through every sense. The village is a book that never closes. As the final glow of the day disappears behind the canopy, the elders begin to call the children inward. Not all play is left behind. There is one more sacred duty: the passing down of story. Under the wide arms of the ceiba tree, the axis of the Maya world, children gather cross-legged on woven mats. Some lean into the laps of older siblings, others blink slowly, lulled by the coming dark, and the elders begin. They speak of the creation of the world, of gods who tried and failed to make humans from mud and wood before succeeding with maize. They speak of mountains that were once giants, of animals who once spoke, of spirits who dwell in the rivers. They tell not what is real or false but what is true in a deeper way. And so, the children listen not just with ears, but with the whole of their being. These stories will shape the way they see the stars, the jungle, the wind. They will become part of the land itself. As night deepens, the voices grow soft. The dolls are set aside. The last top spins to stillness, and slowly, the village exhales once more. Evening slips in like a whisper, not a sudden thing, not here in the Maya village. Here, dusk arrives slowly, like a shawl drawn over the shoulders of the jungle. The last fingers of sunlight stretch through the high canopy, touching thatched rooftops with a final golden kiss before pulling away, leaving the trees to hum softly to themselves. From deep within the forest, the day's last birdsong fades into stillness, and just as quietly, another chorus begins to rise. It starts at the edges, barely noticed tiny insect tremors. A long shimmer of cicadas, the dry click of beetle legs against bark, the flick of bat wings in the dimming air. The jungle never sleeps, it only changes tempo. Within the village, homes begin to glow from within. Fires are stirred, no longer the blazing light of dawn, but something gentler, steady, contained. Low coals are coaxed into flame, and smoke curls upward in slow spirals through the rafters. Evening is a quieter hour. The heat has softened, the pace has eased. And so begins the making of the evening meal. There is no rush, no clamor, just the hush of practiced hands moving through sacred rhythms. Tortillas are shaped again, their dough taken from what was ground in the morning, still resting beneath cloth, still fragrant with the memory of them. They are pressed between palms, flattened into thin discs, and laid onto the Kamala hut, flat stone waiting patiently. As they puff and cook, they fill the air with the deep, earthy smell of corn warmed by flame. Beans are stirred in clay pots, slow and steady. Chili paste dark and dense might be thinned and ladled into a gourd. Some days there is a sliver of meat, other days, only maize. And yet, always, there is enough. Because this is not just food, this is the heart. The Maya do not merely eat corn, they are made of it. The Popol Vuh tells us so, with certainty and reverence. Their flesh was made of maize dough. This was the substance of the people, not as metaphor, but as memory, as origin. The gods tried clay, but it crumbled. They tried wood, but it could not praise. Only maize was right. Only maize could speak, could love, could dream. And so, to eat is to remember, each bite a ritual, each meal a soft reenactment of creation. Tortillas are passed by hand, beans shared from bowl to bowl, and families sit in circles upon the packed clay floor. Children lean against mothers. Elders close their eyes in gratitude. The act of eating becomes something sacred, simple, repetitive, nourishing, and in its very repetition lies peace. When the food is gone and the bowls are rinsed clean, someone lights a candle, not wax, but resin from the forest, thick, golden, and holy. Its flame flickers unevenly, casting shadows against the house walls, making faces seem timeless. In that flickering quiet, the stories begin. Not loud, not eager, but gentle, inevitable, like a tide returning to shore. An uncle clears his throat. A child leans close, and with a low voice, the story unfolds. Long ago, he begins. There were two brothers, Hunapu and Z. The children know this tale, but they still listen as if for the first time. The hero twins, mischievous and brave, bounced their ball too loudly. It echoed into the depths of the underworld Shabalba where the lords of death took offense. And so they summoned the brothers, but the brothers were not afraid. They descended into darkness, into the house of gloom, the house of knives, the house of fire. They faced traps and trials, trickery and terror. They played games with death itself, and though they were killed, they returned. One rose as the sun, the other, the moon. And now, every night and every dawn is their eternal game, still played across the sky. The storyteller's voice softens. The flames die lower. The children curl tighter beneath thin cotton blankets. Mothers hum without melody. Fathers rest their backs against the wall. Eyes up. There is no applause, there are no questions, only silence, satisfied and full. Outside, the night has deepened. The stars have taken their places, cold and close. No haze here, no noise. The sky stretches forever, and across it winds the Milky Way, the white road. To the Maya, it is the Sakib, the celestial path, the sacred highway walked by souls and gods alike. One man steps outside, just briefly, and looks upward. He sees not emptiness, but memory, shapes that are stories. The maize god reborn, the jaguar's path, the turtle in the sky. He breathes in slowly. The jungle hums behind him. The warmth of home pulses just beneath his feet. He turns back inside. And you, dear listener, you too are walking this road now. You have eaten with them. You have listened to their stories. You have watched the fire fade and the stars rise. Let your breath fall into that rhythm. Let your thoughts drift like smoke curling upward. You do not need to hold on to each word. You do not need to think your way through the past. Just rest here, in the quiet between worlds. The hero twins are watching. The gods are near, and the jungle will keep its hush until morning. Exhaustion, in this world, is not something to resist. It is not battled or cursed. It simply is, like the fading sun, like the cooling coals, like the hush that follows storytelling. The Maya people do not see weariness as failure. They do not race against it. Instead, they fold it into the fabric of their days. A child's eyes flutter closed mid-listen, and no one stirs him. An elder lets her weaving fall to her lap unfinished. A mother lets her body lean back against the wall, the weight of the day pulling her downward like the slow tug of the moon. All around the village, the signs of sleep begin to gather like mist. The soft clink of clay bowls stacked away, the final hiss of embers tucked under ash, the whisper of bare feet brushing packed earth. There is no need to speak, no good nights. The air speaks for them. The day is ending. Inside each home, mats are unrolled again. Thin, woven fibers laid upon the floor. Simple, cool, familiar. A father stretches his back once more before settling. A sister adjusts a younger sibling's blanket. Someone murmurs a short prayer, not loudly, but with clarity. A thank you for the maize, for the rain, for the ancestors, for breath. This quiet gratitude is not a ritual performed for show. It is as unconscious as the act of lying down, as natural as blinking. The gods do not require fanfare, only acknowledgement. They are near, always near. They hear through the rustle of leaves and the sighs of sleepers. One by one, the village becomes still. The only movement is the slow rising and falling of chests, the breath of life continuing quietly. Crickets take over now, their rhythmic chirp like a lullaby, pulled from the earth itself. The stars above burn steady and patient, not sharp, not showy, just present, old, watching. The gods, too, do not sleep. They move in dreams, in winds, in cycles. And this, in truth, is not the end. It is only the pause before beginning. For in a few hours, the jungle will sing its dawn song once again. The coals will be stirred, the tortillas shaped, the milpa walked, the gods honored, the children taught. The cycle, as it has for thousands of years, will continue, because the gods are always watching, and the corn must always grow. So now, dear listener, Let your own breath slow. You have walked the day. You have felt the sweat, the smoke, the stories. Let it all settle like dust beneath a still night. There is nothing more to see now, nothing to do, just be here. On this quiet mat, beneath this dark sky. Let your thoughts fade like distant embers. Let your body remember the shape of rest. You are safe, you are home, and the stars, like old friends, will keep watch until morning. The Maya didn't eat corn, they were corn. This truth was not merely symbolic, it was foundational, elemental. For the ancient Maya, maize was not just food, nor even a crop, but a divine mirror of the self. To be human was to be made of corn. To grow, to labor, to love, to diet, was all bound to the cornstalk's own cycle, rising and falling in time with the earth. The Maya told this story again and again, not because they forgot, but because remembering was sacred. And in their oldest surviving text, the Paupolvar, the story is told with quiet certainty. And then they made the first people, of white corn and yellow corn. They made their flesh, not clay, not stone, not spirit alone, but maize flesh crafted from what grows beneath the sun, what bends in the wind, what lives in the soil and returns to it. Corn was the bridge between the gods and the people, between sky and soil, between memory and breath. Each day began in reverence for this origin, in the dim hours before the sun filtered through the trees. Long before the heat rose or the birds stirred, fully a woman would kneel beside her. Volcanic stone passed from mother to daughter, generation to generation. Beside her, a clay bowl held kernels that had been soaked overnight in lime water, an ancient process known as nixtamalization, which softened the hull, unlocked nutrients, and rendered the maize fit, not just for eating, but for becoming us. This was not cooking, it was alchemy. It was a sacred transformation of grain into flesh. As she leaned forward, pressing and grinding with practiced grace, the rhythmic sound echoed softly through the stillness. A gentle scrape, a sigh of stone against stone, the breath of 1,000 ancestors stirring with it. The scent of damp maize filled the air, earthy, a little sharp from the lineman, mingled with the faint smoke from the banked coals. It was not loud, this ritual, nor did it need to be. Its power lay in repetition, in patience, in care. No one rushed the corn. It had waited through sun and storm to grow tall. Now it would be honored as it became life again. But even before it reached the stone, the maize was part of a larger sacred rhythm. Its planting followed the stars. Its harvest was marked with dances and prayers. It was not a resource. It was a being watched over by gods like Hunapu, the maize god, who died and was reborn, mirroring the corn's journey through the underworld and back to light. Maize was ritual. Every kernel had a spirit. Every stalk bent its green body in prayer toward the sky. To plant it was to reenact the world's creation. To eat, it was to receive, once again, the breath of the gods. And yet, the reverence was not solemn, it was intimate. Maize appeared in every home, every meal, every moment. The smell of it, steaming in the early morning, wrapped in leaves or pressed into flat cakes, was a form of comfort deeper than language. Children nibbled at hot tortillas fresh off the griddle, their fingers burning a little, their mouths full of the same taste their great-grandparents knew. Elders chewed slowly, remembering the weight of the harvest, the feel of the earth in their hands. Families gathered around bowls of atale, a warm corn drink, not just to nourish the body, but to reinforce a sacred bond. This was not sustenance, it was continuation, it was belonging. There were no empty calories in Maya cosmology. Every mouthful of corn was part of the cosmic balance. The gods had given their own blood to form the world, and in return, the people honored them with daily acts of gratitude. Grinding, shaping, eating, these were not chores, they were prayers, and they were shared. A family that ate together was not just surviving, they were reaffirming their place in the cosmos. The warmth of the hearth, the flicker of light on gourd bowls, the gentle murmur of voices as the day began, all of it part of an old ongoing conversation between the people and their gods. Even today, the language remembers. In many Mayan dialects, the word for human and the word for maize are still linked. To be alive is to be corn in motion, to work, to sweat, to love, to mourn. All of it traces back to the maize that grew when the rains came and was buried when the dry season returned. There is no beginning or end, only cycles, only remembrance. So now, let your body rest as theirs did. Let your breath slow to the pace of the grinding stone. Let the warmth of the fire wrap around you. You are lying on sacred ground. The stories here are older than kingdoms, older than writing, older than the maps that came later and called these people gone. They are not gone, not really. They speak through the corn, through the soil, through the soft hush of story. The Maya didn't eat corn, they were corn. And maybe, in some quiet, distant way, so are you. The sun is still not fully risen when the metate begins to sing. It is not a song of melody or lyric, but of rhythm and repetition. The low scraping of stone on stone, rough and deliberate, like the deep, slow breath of the earth itself. This is the sound that has greeted every dawn for thousands of years. It is older than writing, older than empire, older even than cities carved from limestone. And here, in the heart of the Maya world, it is the heartbeat of the home. A woman, kneeling with practiced ease, bends forward over the metate, a stone slab worn, smooth by generations of hands. She holds a rounded mano, shaped like a river stone, heavy with memory, and begins to press forward. It is labor. Make no mistake, her back aches slightly from days past, and her knees have long since become familiar with the packed clay beneath them. Her arms move not with strain, but with a kind of deep patience. Push, lift, pull back, repeat. The kernels, once firm and whole, are now damp and swollen from the night's soaking. They yield slowly, reluctantly, crushed between mano and metate, their golden bodies surrendering into paste. Each stroke is part of a long story, one that begins not with her, but with her mother, and her mother's mother, and so on, all the way back to the first woman made of corn. This act, this daily grinding of maize, is more than preparation. It is continuation. A ritual of care and devotion, repeated so often it becomes part of the body's memory. The stone speaks through her hands. The rhythm builds slowly, a quiet cadence, forward and down, backward and lift. The dew collects in small piles at the end of the slab, soft and warm from the friction, fragrant with life. Each motion presses not just grain into meal, but time into presence. It is here, in this rhythm, that the past is kept alive. The woman may not speak of her ancestors, but she touches them, every morning, through this. And though she does it alone, she is never truly alone. The gods are close. Hun Hunappu, the maize god, whose head once sprouted into corn from the underworld soil, watches through time. His myth is not just a story, it is a template, a symbol that corn, like people, must pass through death and darkness to rise again. Each kernel crushed beneath the grinding stone reenacts that journey. Each handful of masa is a resurrection. The metate itself is sacred. It is no idle tool. It was given in marriage, blessed in ceremony, carried from home to home with reverence. Its surface bears the imprint of time grooves, worn deep from decades of use. One can run fingers across it and feel the traces of hundreds of thousands of meals, each one a moment of sustenance, of family, of life. There are metates in the archaeological record whose surfaces are so deeply eroded they seem like shallow valleys, carved not by wind or rain, but by the intimacy of human persistence. They are monuments not grand or public, but quiet and domestic, monuments to survival. There's a strange paradox in this task. It is deeply repetitive, yet never the same. Some days the maize grinds more, some days it is dry and stubborn, some days the hands are more tired, the breath more short, but the work continues, and in it, a kind of peace is found. The woman may hum under her breath. She may say nothing. The children may still be asleep. The man may be gathering wood or preparing for the milk. But in the center of it all, this woman and her stone form, the axis around which the morning turns. Anthropologists have noted that this daily grinding could take hours, 3, even for each day. And while it was physically demanding, it was also meditative, a kind of moving stillness, a time when the mind could wander, or focus, or simply exist. In that way, it was much like prayer, and it was often done, communal as sisters or mothers and daughters kneeling side by side, gossiping, singing, sharing, silence, the rhythm of their manos rising and falling in sync, like breath across generations. This grinding process was also a slow defiance against the loss of culture. Through conquest, through disease, through the slow unraveling of kingdoms, the metate remained. When cities fell and temples were buried beneath vines, the sound of grinding never stopped. When gods were renamed and languages forbidden, the dough still formed beneath the same stones. The colonizers may have taken land and gold, but they could not take the morning meal. The masa was still made, the tortillas still cooked, and the Maya survived. In every village across Mesoamerica, from Guatemala to Chiapas to That sound continues even now. In the early light, as fog curls low in the valleys, you can hear it, the scraping whisper of the metate, the breath of stone remembering. It tells you that the corn is ready, that the world continues. And though you, lying still in the comfort of your present day, may never press a mano to a metate, the echoes are not lost on you. You have felt this rhythm in other ways, in the hum of the washing machine, in the tapping of a knife on a cutting board, in the turn of a wheel or the brushing of teeth. All are echoes of ancient repetition, all are ways of saying, I was here, I cared, I gave shape to something. The woman wipes her brow. She gathers the dough into a gourd bowl and sets it near the fire. The hardest part is over. The corn is no longer just seed, it is sustenance, and soon it will be flame-kissed and fragrant, folded into itself, served to the one she loves. The metate rests, silent once more, its surface faintly warm. Another day's work done, another chapter added to the long, quiet story of corn and people and stone. The first light of the sun has not yet pierced the thick canopy of the jungle. The shadows outside still cling to the trees, heavy and dripping with night moisture, like silent curtains draped across the earth. Inside the home, there is a hush, not silence, but the sacred quiet that belongs only to the earliest moments of the day. The glowing embers from the hearth have softened into a gentle red beneath their cloak of ash, their breath faint but steady, like the pulse of the house itself. And in that stillness, the grinding begins. It is not sudden, there is no rush. The woman lowers herself before the metate, a large, slanted grinding stone carved smooth by time and thousands of mornings just like this one. Her body bends forward with reverence, as if greeting an elder or a god. In her hands, she holds the mano, the handheld stone roller, worn round from years of use. She has done this before. She will do it again. The rhythm begins back and forth, stone on stone, the first song of the morning. At first glance, it looks like labor. And it is. It is effort. It is repetition. It is pressure. But look closer, feel deeper. There's also something else. It is ritual. It is memory. It is communion. Her hands are not just shaping corn into dough. They are shaping the past into the present, sustaining the very identity of her people. The maize, soaked overnight in lime water in a process called nix. The hard kernels are soft, their husks dissolved, releasing nutrients and making them digestible. But this isn't chemistry. Not here. Not now. This is alchemy. This is the moment where stone meets seed, where the divine becomes edible. For, to the Maya, maize is not food. Maize is self. Maize is spirit. Listen to the grinding. Close your eyes. Hear the whisper of ancient stone rubbing against stone. It is a dry, granular scrape, punctuated by the soft sound of breath and the occasional settling of knees on packed earth. This isn't loud. This isn't intrusive. It's the kind of sound that settles into the bones of the house, like the sound of wind in leaves or waves on a shore eternal. Steady, trusted. The woman leans into the motion. Her shoulders rise and fall in a quiet arc, every part of her body absorbed in the act. Her arms stretch forward with the weight of the mano, then pull back, pressing the kernels into paste. Her back curves, then rises again. The motion is slow but strong. There is power in the patience. Her muscles ache, yes, but not in complaint, rather, in familiarity, in rhythm, in belonging. She is a conduit. The energy of generations flows through her arms. This is not something she learned from instruction. This is knowledge inherited through skin and touch. Her mother taught her, her grandmother, in turn, her daughter now watches. There is no need to speak. The stone speaks. The movement speaks. Time speaks. The dough begins to gather near the base of the metate, smooth and soft, slightly warm from the friction. It smells faintly of minerals, of lime, of the rain-fed cornfields that gave it life. It is humble, yes, but it is sacred. In this dough is the breath of the gods. In this dough is the body of the Maya, the Papova. The great sacred text of the Kayak Maya says, and then they made the first people, of white corn and yellow corn, they made their flesh. So this act, this grinding, is not simply preparing a meal. It is sustaining a truth. To grind corn is to remember who you are. Back and forth, stone on stone. Day, that is the refrain. That is the heartbeat, and it has not changed for centuries. The woman's daughter, perhaps 5 or 6, sits nearby on a woven mat. She is quiet, but not idle. Her fingers play with a strip of bark cloth. Her eyes, however, are fixed on her mother's hands. She is watching, she is absorbing. She does not need a lesson. She is learning through presence, through repetition. One day, her hands will hold the mano, and her daughter will watch her. And so it goes. The matata itself is not just a tool. It is an heirloom, a relic, an altar. Its surface has worn the touch of ancestors. It holds the memory of meals shared, of prayers whispered, of lives lived. Each shallow groove in its stone is a story, an offering, a record, not of kings or wars, but of daily love. It is a monument to survival. Outside, the sounds of the jungle begin to shift. A parrot calls from somewhere unseen. The trill of insects starts to rise. Light begins to push its way through the thick canopy, sending shafts of gold through gaps in the roof. The world is waking, but inside the house, the woman's grinding continues, steady as ever, stone on stone. The dough is nearly ready now. She pauses only to stretch her back, her hands dusted with fine cornmeal. A quiet sigh escapes her lips, not of complaint, but of ritual acknowledgement. She's done this 1,000 times. She'll do it again tomorrow. She'll do it until she no longer can. Then her daughter will kneel in her place. This is continuity. This is devotion. This is the invisible labor that holds civilizations together, not in temples or wars, but in small, sacred acts repeated through generations. To grind corn is to touch eternity, and the sound continues, back and forth, stone on stone, day after day. Morning light filters softly through woven red walls, not yet golden, but pale and gentle, pressing into the room as though inviting quiet attention. The hearth's embers glow faintly, still warm from last night's fire, and coils of smoke drift upward in slow spirals, carrying the scent of charred wood and ancient stories. Near the fire, a clay bowl holds small lumps of pale, fresh masita dough made from yesterday's nixtamal and last night's grinding. A woman picks up a portion and gently rolls it between her hands, warming it with her palms, feeling its texture shift from dense to pliable, soft as breath, alive and ready. Her fingers work methodically, forming the dough into round, even balls, then flattening each gently between her palms, turning each into a small, perfect circle. The sound is subtle, soft, damp, squishing, fingertips, brushing, smooth, a whisper of motion. She lifts each flat disc and presses it carefully onto the hot kamal above the embers with a gentle The torta scissors faintly, pressing itself against the stone's warm surface, its edges curling just slightly, steam escaping in small puffs, like quiet exhalations of the earth. The aroma is earthy, warm, with a sweet undertone of toasted maize, vivid and ancestral. As the tortilla puffs, the woman flips it deftly with a clean cloth or soft palm, watching as tiny bubbles form, and then flatten, the surface dotted with pale brown spots where the heat kisses the corn's body. Beside her, another pot simmers quietly. Black beans, soaked overnight and boiled slowly, have thickened into a rich stew. When the lid lifts, a deep, smoky steam rises, carrying aromas of beans mingled with wild herbs, maybe a pinch of salt, or crushed squash seeds, pressed in earlier with gentle fingers. A small gourd holds chili, perhaps sweetened slightly with honey, or dotted with roasted squash bits to soften the fire. The paste is dense, rich in color and in heat, meant to be used sparingly, adding depth and warmth to the meal. Outside, the jungle shifts from night quiet to dawn chorus. Somewhere above, birds begin to stir, calling softly through the canopy. The light crawling across the walls grows warmer. Between tortilla and bean pot stands a small resin candle, colpole resin gathered from sacred trees, pressed into a thin wick, lit with care. Its flame flickers gently, casting soft, moving light over the faces gathered in the room. Resin smoke curls upward in pale trails, faintly sweet and comforting. Children emerge from sleep, blinking in the morning glow, crawling toward the smells. They curl beside their mothers on woven mats, waiting. The tortilla is placed on banana or maize husks, wrapped in leaves, stacking them leaf to leaf, tortilla to tortilla. Bowls of beans and chili paste are passed from hand to hand. No utensils are used. Fingers push tortillas through beans, scoop chili, fold tastes together. Each person eats with intentional slowness, not hurried by hunger, but centered in gratitude. The heat from the tortillas warms palms. The bean stew coats fingers with warmth. The meal is communal in the truest sense. No one eats alone. A sibling shares a tortilla. A grandmother reaches across to pass the chili bowl. children leaning close, tiny hands reaching for a gently torn piece. The sounds are soft powdered corn dust settling on cloth, the clink of clay bowls, low murmurs of thanks whispered without words, soft laughter when a child drops a taco to the floor, only to have the dog sniff curiously. The ambient hush of early morning is punctuated by each subtle noise. The rustle of cloth, the gentle slipping of a tortilla sliding off a leaf, the barely audible chatter of birds outside. There is simplicity here. No ornate silverware or gold vessels, no ringing of alarms. But the connection is profound. This is not an ordinary breakfast. It is a reconnection with the earth that grew the corn, with ancestors who first shaped humans from maize, with the fire that cooks, with the hands that give. With each bite, they renew an agreement that the corn will grow, that the people will remember, that the ritual of care continues. At this table, every tortilla, every bean, every morsel is an offering as much as it is nourishment. The tortilla dough continues to be shaped ball after ball, flattened and cooked. The air fills with the soft rhythm of the pressing, palm slap, steam, aroma. A second candle is lit as the first one wanes, ensuring the flicker of flame remains alive. Flame and dough, flame and fire, warmth and sustenance. Outside, the jungle's murmur grows a rustle of leaves, a flutter of wings, a distant call of howler monkeys waking from slumber. Inside, another pot is uncovered. A bowl of atole, a warm corn drink, thick and smooth. Its steam rises in golden tendrils, scented with maize and perhaps seasoned with a hint of cacao or wild herbs. A child sips slowly, eyes half closed, surrendering to the gentle heat. Families settle into their places on mats. Fathers stoop briefly to press tortillas into their hands. Mothers smooth blankets around toddlers learning to chew. Older sisters hold small bowls for younger siblings. There is a pause between bits, a moment to breathe, to appreciate the flavors, to feel fullness not just of the body, but of belonging. No one speaks much. Their eyes meet, their smiles are quiet. In the flickering candlelight, faces seem softer, older, timeless. With a final tortilla wrapped in leaves and beans scooped one last time, the meal winds down. People lean back, resting against walls, the scent of maize still fragrant in the air. Hands wipe over rag cloths. Bowls are stacked, rinsed with cooled water, and placed aside to dry. The comal is hovered over embers until the heat dims, and the fire is banked with care for later. The resin candle is allowed to smolder until it dies, releasing its last faint offering of sacred smoke. Outside, the jungle hums in full dawn. Birdsong rises in layers. Insects begin their chorus. Leaves catch the first light and glisten. The meal has ended not in clamor, but in soft release. Breath slows, eyes close for a moment or two. Even the smallest listeners' children rest their heads on their mother's knees, lulled by the warmth of food and flame. Yet within this gentle closure is a quiet resolve. Today will follow the same pattern. Maize will be ground again. Beans will simmer. Chili will be crushed. The comal will be heated. The candle will be lit. The meal will be shared. And again tomorrow, and again, because for the Maya, nothing is trivial, not their food, not their prayers, not their communal meal. Each morning meal is a thread in a tapestry of memory and meaning. In the hush after the meal, the air holds the traces of steam and spice like a prayer in suspension. Each breath tastes of corn and connection. Children clamber into hammocks nearby. Parents stretch or begin morning tasks, fetching water, gathering tools, preparing for planting. The flame of the candle long extinguished. The smoke seeps through cracks in the roof, drifted upward beyond the rafters. And yet, the memory of its light lingers in their eyes. This is breakfast. But it is also covenant. It is ritual of bond and blood, of earth and effort. It is the moment when the people say, "We remember, we begin anew, we honor the maize, we honor the gods." And so, life continues. The comal is emptied. The beans are finished. The masa is gone, yet something deeper remains. The quiet fullness of shared breath, shared food, shared purpose. And in that fullness, you can feel it too, dear listener, the heartbeat of a civilization, pulsing gently in the dawn. Soft as steam on fresh corn, strong as the bond between people and maize, steady as the flame that once flickered over their faces as the birds began to stir. It begins with a pinch, just a small one, no more than what can be held between two fingers. A small piece of maize, dough warm, pliant, fragrant from the morning's work, is separated from the larger bowl. And this little bit, this humble portion, does not go into a tortilla. It does not feed a child. It does not soften in a pot of beans. This pinch is sacred. It is for the gods. She walks toward the altar slowly, reverently. Bare feet glide silently over packed earth. Her breathing is steady. The air is warm. In the quiet shadowed corner of the home, just beyond the firelight's reach, the altar waits. It is not grand, not raised on marble or gold. It is simple, perhaps just a shelf carved into the wall, or a stone slab smoothed over many years by hands placing offerings. Upon it rest the signs of belief. A figurine shaped from clay may be chipped at the base, but still standing. A worn stone, cool and heavy, believed to hum with energy. A carving of a maze-art face, serene, corn, silk hair, cascading down its sides. A few feathers, perhaps, a shell, a bundle of dried herbs, and now, one more offering. The pinch of masa. She presses it gently beside yesterday's, or places it in a bowl already holding a few kernels of dried corn, or a sliver of squash, or a pinch of salt. This is how the Maya begin their day, not with demands, not with lists, but with acknowledgement, gratitude, connection, a thank you whispered with dough. Near the altar a small incense burner is lit. Copel, the sacred tree resin, is placed carefully onto the coals. With a faint hiss, it begins to melt and smolder, releasing a soft white smoke. The scent is rich, deep, ancient, sweet, but not cloying, thick, but not heavy. The smoke rises slowly, curling upward in pale tendrils, tracing the rafters, clinging briefly to the beams before drifting away through the slats of the thatched roof. Some say the gods dwell in the smoke, that prayers climb the invisible staircase of scent to the sky, that the ancestors breathe it in and feel remembered. The children are quiet as it burns. Even the youngest knows not to speak during this moment. It is not fear that keeps them silent, but reverence. They watch the smoke rise, their eyes following its spiral motion. It dances like spirit, like breath, like a bridge. Outside, the birds begin their second chorus. The sun peaks higher through the trees, casting longer shadows, golden and soft. But inside, time slows. The house breathes in incense. It becomes a temple. Some families keep a small figurine of the maize god Therium Cox, the youthful deity of the wild. His image is delicate, always shown with ripening ears growing from his head, a symbol of fertility, rebirth, and sustenance. Others place no image, but instead keep the altar elemental stone for earth, a bowl of water, a flame, a few scattered grains. The gods do not require grandeur, they require sincerity, continuity. This ritual, small as it is, echoes across centuries, from the ancient cities of Antiquil to the smallest thatched homes in the hills. This act repeats. A pinch of dough, a curl of smoke, a whispered breath of thanks. Even now, in many parts of the Guatemala and Chiapas, the offering is still made, not for tradition's sake, but because something deep, something remembered in bone and blood, says, this is right, this is necessary. The corn gave us life. The corn must be thanked. Every meal begins with maize, they say. Every prayer ends with it. This is not just poetry, it is instruction. It is a worldview. The Maya believed that humans were made of corn, not metaphorically, but truly. That before us, the gods tried making people of wood, of clay, of mud, but only when they shaped us from yellow corn and white corn did they succeed. Our bones, our flesh, our breath, woven from maize. So, to eat is to remember, to plant is to honor, to offer, even just a pinch, is to participate in the cycle that began at the beginning of the world. And so the offering is made. Sometimes a prayer is whispered as the incense curls, not loudly, barely above breath, a line from the Popol Vuh, or something simpler. Let the corn grow, let the rains come, let the children be full, or sometimes, thank you for this day, thank you for this meal, thank you for this breath. Over time, the offering accumulates, bits of dried maize husk, the shine of old seeds, a layer of ash from incense, long since burned away, each one small, but together they build something greater, like bricks in a temple, like voices in a song. Gratitude layered upon gratitude, offerings left for the invisible but ever-present eyes of the gods, and the smoke, always the smoke, carries it away, or, perhaps, carries it inward, into the soul of the home, into the memory of the land. Even in the great temples, the towering pyramids and ceremonial altars, this act was mirrored. Priests made larger offerings, of course, more copal, more maize, sometimes cacao, sometimes feathers, sometimes blood, but at its heart, the gesture was the same. To give, to remember, to thank. Because the Maya saw the universe as a balance, a reciprocity. Humans received the gift of maize and with it, life. In return, they offered back a portion, a prayer, a ritual, to keep the balance whole, to remind the gods that the people remembered, to ensure the corn would continue to grow. The corn must grow, they say. The corn must be thanked. Repeat it softly. Let the words settle into the quiet between your thoughts, like mist between trees, like smoke on morning light. The corn must grow. The corn must be thanked. And so they do. Each morning, each meal, each season, each planting, and each harvest marked by small acts of devotion. Offerings placed not out of obligation, but out of deep, enduring gratitude. For in every kernel lies a story, in every stalk a memory, and in every breath of incense a prayer. The gods, they say, are always watching. Not with judgment, but with listening, with remembering. They notice the small things, the way a child lifts a tortilla with both hands, the way a mother pauses before the altar, the way the smoke spirals, without hurry toward the sky. This is how a people remain in harmony, not by conquest, not by wealth, but by remembrance, by humility, by rhythm. And so the pinch of dough remains on the altar, quiet, unassuming, but powerful. It holds within it everything, past, present, spirit, soil. It says, we know who we are. We know what we came from. We are the children of maize, and the corn must grow. The corn must be thanked. Let this moment linger. Let the smoke drift. Let the silence wrap around you like a blanket. The gods are not far. They never were. They are here in the hush, in the flicker of the flame, in the warmth of massa, in your palm. And they are listening. Before light touches the trees, her hands are already working. The breath of sleep still clings to her limbs, warm and quiet, as if the dreams of the night have not quite loosened their hold. She lies motionless for a moment, not from fatigue, but from the stillness of habit, the way one listens for the world before fully returning to it. Outside, the village is silent, wrapped in dew and stars, and yet in this silence something breathes a soft wind through thatch, a nightbird folding its wings, the trees waiting patiently for dawn. She sits up slowly, not startled, but with the calm certainty of someone who has always risen in darkness. Her feet find the cool clay floor. The packed earth greets her like an old friend, firm beneath her soles, the same as it was yesterday, the same as it will be tomorrow. Her shawl rests beside her in a loose spiral of cloth and memory. She gathers it and draws it over her shoulders, the fibers whispering across her skin, warming her arms, wrapping her back. Beside her, her youngest child still sleeps, curled into a nest of limbs and breath and dreams. She touches the child's back once, lightly, as if to leave part of herself there, a blessing made of fingertips. Then she rises fully, the joints in her knees, not creaking but unfolding, muscles remembering. Her home is a single room. The walls are smooth mud darkened from years of firelight and hands. A faint thread of incense smoke hangs from the rafters, the ghost of last night's prayer still drifting in the warm air. She moves to the hearth, where the ashes are grey and silent, but not dead. Beneath their soft shell, a small red glow waits. She leans down, takes a twist of dried brush, and places it over the coals. She breathes slowly, steadily. Her breath stirs the ember. A small flame licks upward. Another the brush catches. Heat returns. The fire is awake. She feeds it gently, one piece at a time, listening to the way it crackles, the way it hums. She places a clay pot filled with water beside it. The pot is smooth and round, its surface cool, its weight familiar in her hand. As the flame climbs, she dips her fingers into a second bowl and washes her face, wiping sleep from her skin, drawing freshness over her forehead, cheeks, lips. Droplets fall down her neck, catching the fire's warmth as steam rises from her hair. It coils upward, delicate, like a spirit, like breath made visible. She does not hurry. Nothing in this hour is meant to be hurried. Every motion has been made 1,000 times. Every gesture carries the memory of the women before her. She turns to the corner where the matate waits, a stone slab worn, smooth by use, darkened by time. Its surface is sacred, not because it is rare, but because it is known. Her knees settle onto woven matting. Her body folds toward the stone, not with resignation, but with reverence. This is not chore. This is communion. The basket of nixtamo is beside her maize soaked overnight in lime water, the kernels swollen and pale, their fragrance faintly sweet, faintly mineral. She takes a handful and places it on the stone. The mano is beside it, curved like a crescent moon, heavy in her hands. She lifts it, inhales, and begins. Stone on stone. Back and forth. Slow, steady. The kernels resist at first, then yield. The dough thickens, a pale paste gathers on the mat. Her arms move in rhythm, the same rhythm her mother showed her, the same her daughter will inherit. It is not just grinding, it is song, it is breath, it is prayer. The fire murmurs behind her. Outside, the first bird calls, a low flute note that rises and disappears. The sky is still mostly night, but it has begun to soften. Her body works in silence. Her breath, even the dough, gathers. She shapes it, presses it between her palms, flattens it into a disc. She sets it on the warm comal, and it hisses. The scent rises, maize, fire, warmth. Her children begin to stir behind her, one shifting in sleep, another rising to fetch kindling. Her husband steps outside to splash water on his face. Still no words, only the rhythm of morning. The tortillas puff, their bellies rising gently with steam. She touches one with her fingers, judging doneness by heat, not by time. She presses, turns, replaces. Another is shaped, another laid on the fire. Her daughter kneels beside her, small hands uncertain. The woman guides them, wordless, patient. Together, they lift the mano. Together, they press the stone, stone on stone. The day begins not with noise, but with rhythm. Not with declarations, but with breath. Not with light, but with warmth. And in that warmth, in that motion, the story of the people is retold. One hand, one taught. The stone has always been there, even before the walls of this home were raised, before her own body was shaped by labor and breath. The metate waited, heavy enduring. It sits in the corner of the home like a low altar, not ornate, not elevated, but sacred in its simplicity. The surface is worn smooth from generations of motion, not by accident, but by the repetition of countless mornings. The woman's hands know the feel of it before they touch. Her fingers hover, then press, and in that contact, something ancestral awakens. The coal of the volcanic stone rises into her skin, reminding her of the earth, of bones, of things that do not die but only pass from hand to hand. This metate is not new. Its edges are softened by use, its weight marked by decades of dust and ash and time. Her mother used it, and her mother's mother, worn smooth by her grandmother's palm. It carries the memory of bodies bent to it, in early morning hours, long before the sun arrived to witness. It is the imprint of patience. It is the signature of women whose names are no longer spoken, but whose work lives on in every tortilla, every offering, every motion made at dawn. The stone is unchanged, but the hands grow old. She takes the mano, the smaller stone, curved, familiar, always resting to the side like a sleeping child. It too is heavy, but the weight is known, expected. It presses into her palm with the same pressure each day, a gravity that does not ask for strength but for steadiness. There is no rush, no urgency. The nixtamal lies ready, swollen from the soak, each kernel a bead of memory, washed and white, and waiting. She places a small handful on the mat. Her shoulders square, her knees rest on the mat. The air is still cool, but her skin is warm now, and the fire behind her murmurs. Stone on stone, back and forth. A motion older than writing, older than most gods. The grinding does not roar, it whispers, a soft scraping sound, rhythmic, gentle, like waves against the shore of an ancient sea. With each pass, the kernels break. With each pass, they dissolve beneath her will. The paste begins to form, thick, wet, smelling faintly of lime and life. Her breath matches the rhythm. In, press, out, lift. Again. She does not count. There is no number. There is only feel, texture, temperature, thickness. The dough will tell her when it is ready, just as the fire told her when it was hot enough, just as the day told her when it was time to rise. Around her the home slowly wakes, a small cough from the corner, the rustle of fabric, the quiet coo of a child stretching against sleep. But the grinding does not stop. The scraping continues, soft, steady, eterna. The metate does not speak, but it listens. It absorbs sound. It holds silence. It marks time not in hours or minutes, but in meals, in mornings, in generations. The woman thinks, not in words, but in sensations. The heat against her knees, the scent of smoke and musk, the memory of her mother's voice, low and close, teaching her when she was a child, not too fast. The stone doesn't like haste. And it was true. When rushed, the dough rebelled. The kernels remained hard. The paste was uneven. But when approached with care, with the reverence it deserved, the stone responded. It accepted, it gave. There is something sacred in this contract. The woman does not own the she tends it, she keeps it company, she respects its slowness, and in return, it transforms hard grain into food, into substance, into breath. This is not just labor. It is ceremony, a morning rite performed without words, without audience, and yet more meaningful than most prayers. Her daughter watches from across the room, sitting near the wall, legs drawn to her chest, eyes wide. She does not interrupt. She only observes. One day, she too will kneel. She too will learn the rhythm, but not yet. For now, she watches the hands of her mother and the whisper of stone upon stone. The scraping fills the room, not loudly, but fully. It layers over the hush of early light. It pulses like a second heartbeat. Even the birds outside seem to wait for it. The breeze drifts through the open door, carrying with it the scent of wet leaves and distant flowers. But inside, there is only maize and stone and breath. The dough grows bit by bit. Enough for the morning, enough to feed what needs feeding. The woman wipes her brow with the back of her hand. Her arms ache, but not with pain. With effort, with memory, with life. The matate is not ornamental. It is not something to admire and then forget. It is the center of the home. It is older than her, and it will outlast her. When she is gone, the stone will remain. Still worn, still heavy, still ready. Her daughter will lift it, her daughter's daughter, too, and none of them will speak of it as something new. It will feel like returning to a conversation already begun. The metate speaks in circles, in spirals, in repetitions that are never quite the same but always familiar. She finishes the last pass. The dough is ready. She gathers it into a bowl, pats the last remnants from the stone, wipes the edges clean with a cloth darkened by years of use. The scraping ends. The silence it leaves behind is not empty. It is full, thick resting. The breath of the house changes. The sun has begun to enter through the doorway now, throwing pale light across the floor, catching the sheen of sweat on her arms, illuminating the flecks of masa that cling to her fingers. She smiles faintly, not with pride, but with peace. The work is done, and the day can begin. But even as the fire is fed again, even as the tortillas are shaped and laid on the commel, the echo of the metate remains. In the soft thrum of her heartbeat, in the quiet breathing of her child, in the weight of the stone cooling in the corner. It will wait there until tomorrow, unmoving, unchanging, like time itself. And when she returns again at dawn, it will be there, not waiting, but continuing. The tool of time, the keeper of mornings, the voice that never speaks, yet never forgets. The body remembers before the mind does. Long before the thoughts begin to form, before the day fully opens its eyes, her body is already aware of the weight it must carry, the tasks it must perform, and the ancient rhythm it must enter once again. She does not speak. She does not need to. The metate is in its place, unmoved, like a constant in an ever-shifting world. She lowers herself beside it. Slowly, with intention, her knees press into the woven mat beneath her, the soft fibers giving slightly under the familiar pressure. The first breath she takes is deep, filling her chest, rising her shoulders already, sore from days and years and generations of this same motion. And then, like a tide, she exhales, folding herself into the curve of labor. The arch of her spine bends not with strain but with surrender. It is a posture learnt over time, not taught, not spoken, but absorbed through watching, through repeating, through feeling. Her arms extend. Her palms press against the cold mana. The stone greets her not warmly, but with the steady neutrality of time. It offers no comfort, yet it does not resist her. It simply is. Her fingers curl, her wrists tighten, and with the first forward push, the motion begins. Back and forth, stone on stone, day after day. There is no violence in the grinding, only endurance, only rhythm. The kernels yield slowly beneath the weight of stone and muscle, becoming something new, something useful, something nourishing. She feels it not just beneath her hands, but through her arms, her shoulders, her ribs, down through her hips and thighs pressed firmly to the earth. The heat begins to rise. Not from the fire, but from within. From the friction of flesh against purpose. Her thighs begin to warm, her back to glisten with a sheen of early sweat, even though the morning air is still cool. Her motion becomes the flame, back and forth, stone on stone. Day after day, the soreness is not sharp. It is dull, familiar, ancient. A presence that lives beneath her skin, whispering not in pain, but in persistence. Her shoulders ache. Yes, her forearms tremble now and then, yes. But none of this is suffering. It is simply sensation, part of the practice, part of the prayer. The burn in her muscles is the incense of her labor. The tension in her spine is a thread that ties her to her ancestors. Her arms ache, but her mind floats. This is where the meditation begins. As the stone moves, her thoughts loosen. The noise of waking children, the tasks that wait beyond the doorway, the concerns of water and weather and harvest, all of it recedes. What remains is this: the press, the slide, the breath, the repetition, back and forth, stone on stone, day after day. Her breath slows, deepens. Her eyes are half-lidded, not out of sleepiness, but out of trance. Each movement draws her deeper into herself and further away from the world. And yet, this is not an escape, it is a return. A return to the body as instrument, to the body as offering, to the body as rhythm and ritual and remembrance. The weight of the mono becomes part of her, no longer separate. It moves, not because she commands it, but because they move together, as dancers move together, as the wind moves with the grass. There is no thought of stopping, there is only the movement itself. Her elbows lift and fall in the same slow arc. Her spine curves forward, then releases slightly, then curves again. Every muscle has its part, even the ones that ache, especially the ones that ache. Back and forth, stone on stone, day after day. There are no clocks in this moment. Time exists only in pressure, in texture, in resistance. She knows when the dough is ready, by feel, not by measure. Her palms sense the change, the transformation from coarse to smooth, from grain to paste, from separate to whole. And when that change begins to appear, something in her softens, not just in the arms or fingers, but in the chest, in the heart, because this is more than preparation. It is devotion. Each repetition is an offering not just to her family, but to the gods, to the ancestors, to the land. The labor is slow, and it is sacred. The fire behind her breathes softly, as if watching. Its warmth touches the back of her neck, mingling with the warmth rising from her thighs and chest. Her hair clings slightly to her skin. A single drop of sweat slides down her temple. And still, the motion continues, back and forth, stone on stone, day after day. She closes her eyes for a moment, and in the darkness behind her lids, she sees her mother, kneeling like this, shoulders shaped by work, hands steady. She hears a voice low.com/patient. This is how you make food. This is how you make life. She sees her grandmother too, bent, older, slower, but no less present. The memory is strong not in image, but in posture, in feeling, in weight. She opens her eyes again, and the light has shifted. The day is inching forward. The shadows have moved along the floor. The birds are louder now. Someone coughs softly in the next room. But within this small world of motion and breath, nothing has changed. The dough has grown beneath her touch. It glistens slightly, smooth and pliable. She gathers it, careful not to waste, and places it in the bowl by her side. The mat beneath her creaks as she leans back slightly. Her arms rest, briefly. Her legs tingle with release. And yet, even in stillness, the rhythm echoes in her breath, in her bones, in the slight throb of her shoulders, now cooling. She does not resent the ache. She honors it. It means she has made something. Again, back and forth, stone on stone. She stands slowly, the weight of labor still singing softly in her limbs. The dough will become tortillas. The tortillas will become breakfast. And breakfast will become strength for those who leave the home to walk the fields, the market, the roads. Her work is quiet. It does not announce itself, but it endures, like stone, like time. Tomorrow she will kneel again. She will bow again. She will press her hands to the ancient surface again, not because she must, but because this is what has always been done. Because in the rhythm, she finds rest. Because in the repetition, she finds herself back and forth, stone on stone, day after day. The morning is still soft. The light has not yet reached the full curve of the village roof, but inside one home, time is already stretching forward and folding back. A child stirs, half wrapped in woven cloth. Her eyes are not fully open, but they do not need to be. She already knows what she will see. What she always sees at this hour, her mother's arms in motion, slow, even, enduring. The sound is faint, just a whisper of stone against stone, soft as breath, older than any song she knows. It fills the room without demanding attention, without hurrying her awake. She simply watches, a woman and a stone, a hand and a task, a child and a memory that is not yet hers but will be. The grinding stone is low to the ground, dark and polished with time. The matete doesn't shine in the light, but it glows in a different way, in the way that things do when they have held the same place for many years, when they have survived the sun and the rain and the weight of many hands. The mano, the stone held in the hand, has worn smooth from use, not from a month or a year, but from decades upon decades of contact. Her grandmother used it, her great-grandmother before that, not because she had to, but because she trusted it. Because in its heaviness, there was a kind of peace. It could not be rushed. It asked for time, and in giving it, the women gave something of themselves. Her mother taught her this. The voice might whisper, her daughter watches now. And in that watching, something sacred is passed. The child is not taught with words. No lesson is spoken, no correction offered. There is only presence, only the long, slow passing down of movement through space, through repetition, through rhythm. The body learns what the language forgets. It is not just the grinding of corn. It is the telling of a story that cannot be written, a story that must be carried in the arms, in the wrists, in the steady motion of weight pressed into stone. Each gesture has been made before. Each gesture will be made again. Memory does not always live in words. Sometimes it lives in the arms. Sometimes it lives in the shoulders' tired roll, in the low ache that comes just before the dough is ready. Sometimes it lives in silence, sometimes in breath, sometimes in the small, unconscious hum that escapes a mother's throat while her hands work. The child rises, quietly. She is still too young to grind, not yet strong enough to press the maize into paste. But her hands move anyway. She finds the little clay toy shaped like a matete, shaped like the real one, but lighter, smaller. Her father carved it when she was 2. Her fingers mimic the motion, back and forth, small, uncertain circles. Her stone makes no paste, no meal. But that isn't the point. The motion is the inheritance. The act of pretending is the beginning of remembering, and the mother sees her. She does not interrupt. She does not laugh. She only watches. The corners of her eyes wrinkle with a knowing softness. Because she remembers, too. She remembers watching her own mother grind, and reaching for a stick or a rock to copy her. She remembers how natural it felt, how the rhythm worked its way into her before she even knew what it was. The rhythm belongs to the family, passed on like breath, back and forth, stone on stone, day after day. These are not just movements. They are continuity. They are what allow a person to live not just in the present, but in the long line of all who came before. Each pass of the grinding stone connects the child to the woman to her mother to hers. There is no beginning, there is no end. Only this morning, only this motion, only this memory being made. Later, when the girl is older, she will take her mother's place. Not all at once, not suddenly. The way the ember becomes flame, the way light grows on the eastern leaves. She will feel the soreness in her shoulders. She will feel the heat rising from the earth. She will find herself humming the same low song, though she does not know where she learned it. And one day her daughter will watch her. And so the story continues. It is not a story of kings or gods. It is not a story found in books, or carved into monuments. It is quieter than that. It lives in the daily, the ordinary, the overlooked. But it is no less sacred, because it is not about what is done. It is about who does it, and how, and why. It is about the way the past leans forward into the present, about the way hands remember even when the mouth is silent. It is about belonging, back and forth, stone on stone, day after day. The sound continues, steady, like the breathing of the earth itself, like a lullaby for the morning, like a heartbeat for the home. And outside the sky begins to change. Not abruptly, not brightly, but with a softness that matches the scene within. The vines tremble gently. A breeze moves through the trees. Birds call just a few, not yet the full chorus, as if they, too, are listening, as if they do not want to interrupt. The mother sets down the grinding stone. The dough is ready. The comal is heating. She shapes the tortilla in her hands, flat and round, smooth-edged and even. She places it on the griddle with a hiss. And again, the child mirrors her, flattening air, pretending, learning. There is no ceremony here, but there is reverence. Reverence in the way the dough is handled, in the way the fire is fed, in the way silence is allowed to linger, in the way the past is honored not with fanfare, but with faithfulness. Back and forth, stone on stone, the child presses her toy mano with concentration. Her brow furrows. She looks up to see if she is doing it right, and the mother, smiling, reaches over just slightly and adjusts the motion. That is how it is passed, not by speech, not by command, but by hands, by presence, by love. In this small AXO choir, so repetitive, so easily missed, a legacy endures. A world is preserved, a memory becomes a future, and so we leave them here, in this morning that stretches like thread across generations, in this space where memory is not something recalled, but something lived, in this rhythm that is both old and new, back and forth, stone on stone, day after day, forever. Before the world is fully awake, before the village stirs, before the dogs bark, before even the birds have found their song, there is a woman. She is kneeling before the mat, and though she grinds corn as she always has, this morning, like every morning, something invisible hums beneath the task. The stones are old, but the spirit that passes through them is older still. This is not simply food. This is not merely meal. This is memory. This is prayer. Her hands work with patience. Her body aches, yes, but her heart is somewhere else. Or rather, it is here but in a different way. Each motion, each press of weight upon the grain, each roll and return of the mano across the metate is an act of reverence. It does not need to be named. It simply is. The corn becomes the body. The grinding becomes the offering. She does not speak aloud, but inside her mouth, a soft hum begins to form. Low, wordless, circular. It has no beginning and no end. This tune, she does not remember learning it. She simply knows. Perhaps it was given to her through her mother's voice, or from the hush of trees when she walked alone as a child. Perhaps it came from the hush of coals at night, from the soft coo of doves nesting in the beams. It does not matter. What matters is that it rises now unbidden, and she lets it fill the space. She hums a tune older than names. The sound of stone on stone continues, soft and steady, and with it, something else. There is a rhythm to it. Yes, a music, but beneath that music is meaning. She may not put words to it. She may never try, but she knows this act binds her to something greater. The Maya do not draw hard lines between the sacred and the daily. There is no Sunday, no separation. There is only now. And if one grinds corn with the same hands that would offer incense, then both become prayer. The hearth, still faintly glowing from the night's last fire, begins to wake. A few embers, nudged into life, stretch into red-orange tendrils. The light is low, flickering. Shadows dance gently on the woven walls. She feeds it slowly, tenderly, as if feeding a baby. She knows just how much it needs. Not too much, not too fast. And above her, rising with the breath of the flames, is a new scent, nixtamal. That sacred change, the transformation of grain soaked in lime and ash has already begun. The kernels are softened, the skin ready to be rubbed away, and in the gentle release of steam, something stirs. It is not just the smell of corn, it is the smell of life. It carries memory, yes, but also presence. A reminder, the food is not yet ready, but it is on its way, and the spirit of the house knows. Her shoulders rise with a breath. She does not sigh. There is no frustration, no rush, only patience. For all things sacred take time, and the cornet is more than food. It is the mother, it is the child, it is the gods, it is the sun when it rises and the sun when it falls. It is the sky made edible, it is the breath of the earth made flesh, and here, under her hands, it is becoming again. Once, long ago, or perhaps not so long ago, the maize god was dismembered, torn apart, buried beneath the earth. But he did not die. He became the grain. He returned in each kernel, in each stalk, and every time a woman grinds, she is not just feeding her family, she is remembering him. She is helping him rise again. This is not metaphor. This is belief. This is truth. She hums still, and though no one else is in the room, she is not alone. Because the ancestors are near. Because the gods are listening. Because even the fire seems to breathe in rhythm with her hands. Back and forth. Stone on stone. Day. The sound is a metronome for memory. It's not only the body that learns this rhythm. The soul does, too. Children hear it in the womb. Babies recognize it before they recognize voices. It is the first music of the morning, and the last sound before sleep. It is lullaby and liturgy. A sacred beat that carries through generations. She pauses to adjust her legs. Her hips shift. Her palms press deeper. The grain is breaking down now, slowly turning to paste. The masa will soon be ready. The smell of nixtamal intensifies. It is warm, damp, rich, a little sweet, a little earthy. If you were to step into the home now, you might mistake it for simple comfort. But if you sat quietly, if you breathed slowly, if you listened to the hush between the scrapes, you would feel it. You would know that something greater is present. Because it is not only food being prepared, it is the past being honored, it is the spirit being nourished. It is the boundary between the everyday and the divine dissolving, one breath at a time. The gods do not always need temples. Sometimes they need kitchens. Sometimes they dwell in the curl of steam, in the hush of pre-dawn light. The woman's eyes do not look upward. She is not asking. She is not begging. She is being. And in her being, there is offering. Even silence is sacred here. Even pain has meaning. Her arms ache, but her soul floats, and still, the hum continues. Low, unbroken, older than names. Outside, a rooster calls. The first one, the brave one, and with it, the spell begins to lift. The world begins to move, but she does not hurry. The masa is almost ready, and as the nixtamal cools and the sun filters through the reeds, she knows the day will bring more labor, more noise, more need. But for now, this moment is enough. She dips her hands into the water, wipes the sweat from her brow, and smiles just faintly at the tiny curls of steam rising from the bowl. A hint of what's to come, a blessing in vapor, the beginning of the next ritual, and always, back and forth, stone on stone, day after day, long before her hands began the day, before her mother's hands and her mother's hands ground even a single kernel of corn, before the house was built or the path worn through the trees, before the village found its place among the hills and rivers, the stone already waited. Beneath the sleeping mountain, beneath layers of ancient ash and buried fire, it lay quiet, a stone born from heat so fierce it once glowed, from magma that boiled and rose through the bones of the earth, from the slow cooling breath of the planet. It hardened beneath time, not merely passing, but pressing layer upon layer of waiting, of weight, of stillness. There in the dark, far from breath or bird, it gathered itself. Then, long years after the last eruption had gone silent, a hand touched it, not the hand of a god or a ruler, but a hand like hers, broad and steady, cracked by weather and wear, with dirt under the nails and prayers in the wrist. Someone chipped it free with care, not to build a wall or a weapon, but to shape something quieter, a basin, a curve, a shallow slope that would cradle the seeds of life. This was the matit's beginning, not the stone's beginning, but the tools. Stone turned to purpose, to meaning, to rhythm, and the hand that shaped it knew. This was not a thing made for a season. It would outlast the shaper. It would pass from mother to daughter and then again. And it has. Some of these stones, old ones, silent ones, have been found deep in tombs, in graves dug for women who once knelt over them each morning. Archaeologists brush away dirt to find a metate still heavy with ground corn, the last breath of a meal never eaten, the last gesture of care in a world long gone. The corn, fossilized, the curve of the stone, still smooth from flesh, long vanished. This is not just artifact, it is memory, caught in rock, a reminder that time does not only erase it, also preserves. And in this act, the stone becomes something more. It is not only a tool, it is a calendar, a womb, a grave, a prayer. It speaks of what came before and what must come again. And the woman who kneels beside it today does not kneel alone. She joins a line that reaches back through centuries, through jungle and ruin, through empire and ash. She does not always think of this. She does not need to. The stone remembers for her. The matete is not light. It was never meant to be. It anchors the home. It cannot be carried easily or left behind. When families move, they carry it if they can. strapped to their backs like children. If they cannot, they bury it. Not to forget, but to return. The stone waits, always, and when a girl becomes a woman, and a woman becomes a mother, the matate waits still. It may come from a grandmother's hearth, pulled from its resting place and laid upon a new patch of floor. It may come with stories, or with none at all. Still, she knows how to use it. Her body knows. Her weight falls into the same curve. Her palms pressed where others once pressed. Her breath rises in rhythm with those long before her. Nothing has changed, and everything has. There is something holy in how time wears stone. The surface of the matati grows smoother with each passing year, polished not by tools, but by hands, by kernels, by breath. The corners round off, the color deepens, the sound shifts, subtly. A new matate rings sharp, an old one sings lower, like a drum beneath the earth. Even blindfolded, a woman might know her family's stone, the way it leans, the way it yields, the whisper it makes as maize breaks beneath it. This is not coincidence. This is relationship. A woman does not merely use the matata, she communes with it. She gives her weight, her time, her body, and in return it gives masa, and memory, and silence. Over time, as the woman grows older, and her joints stiffen, the stone remains the same. That is, its gift. The constancy of tool when the body begins to shift, when the breath shortens, when the fingers cramp. Still the stone endures. Still it greets her each dawn. Still it calls her by name, even if no one else does. Even if the house grows quiet or the village changes, the matate does not change. And when the woman's grinding ends, and her final breath joins the others in the rafters, the matati stays. It is not burned. It is not thrown away. It is cleaned. It is kissed. It is passed on. And so, the stone carries not only corn, but memory. The pressure of a grandmother's palms remains faintly there, held in the smooth arc of its belly. A thumbprint, not seen but felt. The shape of a life etched into mineral. And now the daughter grinds in that same place. Her body fits the same pattern. Her breath joins the same rhythm. She may hum the same tune, though she never learned it. It comes from somewhere deeper. And time continues, not as a straight line, but as a circle, back and forth, stone on stone. Day after day, maize becomes masa. Masa becomes bread. Bread becomes body. And the body bends again to stone. There is no beginning. There is no end. Sometimes the matate breaks. The belly splits. A crack forms too deep to grind across. And in that moment, it is not merely a tool that fails. It is a loss of death. Some families bury their broken stones in the earth, facing the rising sun. Some place offerings beside them, a few kernels, a flower, a shard of obsidian. Some say a prayer, others are silent, but always there is mourning, because the stone is not just stone. It is a keeper of time, and time is sacred. So now, when the woman in the dim morning light places her hands on the matate once again, she is not just beginning a task. She is entering a lineage. She is waking the mountain inside the stone. She is calling to those who came before and answering them. She is pressing memory into movement, and the stone receives her as it has for generations. And still, the corn waits. And still, the fire waits. And still, the stone waits. And time, again, begins to turn. A matati begins in silence. It is shaped by hands that know the feel of the land. Not soft hands, not hurried hands, but hands that listen to stone. It begins its life as a promise, not to the woman who uses it first, but to all those who will come after. This promise is not spoken, but lived. It is lived through mornings like this one, with the sun not yet risen, with the fire still whispering from last night's coals, with the scent of sleep fading slowly from the skin. It begins when a woman kneels, places her palm against the cool stone, and begins to move, back and forth. Stone on stone, day after day. The matati is not meant to last a year, or a season. It is not like the firewood that burns down, or the reed mat that frays, and must be No, the matate is more like a tree that does not grow, but watches. It is more like a river rock, smoothed over decades. It lasts for lifetimes. Some matates live 100 years, some more. They begin their work in the hands of a mother, and continue in the hands of her daughter, and perhaps still later, in the hands of a grandchild kneeling in the same patch of earth. Time wears everything, but it does not erase, it reveals. And so the surface of the matati, once rough, becomes gently hollowed, not by chisel, but by use, not by fire, but by repetition. Each kernel ground, each breath exhaled, each morning begun with the same motion, all of it becomes part of the stone. It wears down, but it grows rich. The life of a metate is a long spiral, shaped by weight and time. Its back softens, its belly deepens, and with every year, it speaks more fluently the language of use. It grows quieter in sound. Its rhythm becomes less sharp, more knowing. The woman learns this too. She does not need to look to know how the stone is changing. She can feel it beneath her arms. She can hear it in the way corn breaks. A younger metate resists. It asks more of the body. An older one yields, slightly, as if it has learned the rhythm and wants only to be part of it. A woman may not say this out loud, but she knows it, deep in her bones. Eventually, the stone begins to show its age more clearly. A hairline crack forms. The curve of the belly grows too deep. Sometimes, a chip falls away from the edge, unnoticed at first, then mourned later. Sometimes the surface becomes too thin, and still, many women continue to use it. Carefully, gently, aware of every pressure, every sound. Because the metate is not just a tool, it is a witness, a partner. It has heard the stories told over grinding. It has felt the tears fall, the quiet ones, hidden from children. It has held a corn for feast days and famine. It has received every gesture of care, and it is given back. When the metate can no longer serve, something changes in the house. There is a silence, not in the room, but in the body. A silence like losing a friend. It is not loud grief. It is quiet, but lasting. The stone has reached the end of its working life, but not the end of its meaning. In many homes, a broken metate is not discarded. It is not tossed into a pile of waste or buried without thought. No, it is honored. Just as the life of a person ends in ceremony, so too the life of a matter deserves attention. Some families dig a shallow grave beneath the cooking hearth or under a tree near the house. They lower the stone carefully, as if tucking in a sleeping elder. They place offerings, a pinch of masa, a few kernels of corn, sometimes a flower, sometimes even a shard of obsidian or a clay figure. Children watch, learning not just about the stone, but about time, about respect, about the things that carry more than we see. Some say the spirit of the metate returns to the mountain, that it melts into the soil and dreams again beneath the roots of trees. Some say its strength passes into the hands of the woman who receives its replacement. Others say nothing at all, but simply pause for a moment when walking past the place where the old stone sleeps. A breath held. In certain villages, an old metate may be recarved, shaped again with effort and care, its face freshened, its back flattened. This is not the making of a new tool, but the rebirth of an old one. It carries its memory into new form. But not all metates can be reborn. Some are too worn, some are ready to rest, and so the cycle continues. A new metate is chosen, not bought from a market, but selected from the earth. A suitable stone, volcanic, dense, patient. It is shaped with quiet hands. It is prepared not for the present, but for the long unfolding of time. The new woman, perhaps young, perhaps unsure, receives it not with celebration, but with breath. She begins again, and though the stone is young, she knows one day it too will deepen. It too will remember. She places it on the floor. She kneels. She lifts them on her, and the rhythm begins, back and forth, stone on stone, day after day. And the metate lives. The morning begins not with a sound, but with a sensation, a shift in the air, a hush that belongs only to the hours before the sun has fully woken. The woven mat still holds the outline of her body. The earth beneath it is cool, firm, steady. Her limbs are slow to move, still warm from dreams, but already the rhythm of the day whispers to her. She does not resist. Her knees press into the packed dirt floor, and the world begins again. Before light touches the trees, her hands are already working. The metate, her silent companion, waits in its place near the hearth. It is cool, even in the heat of the tropics cool, as river stone, untouched by fire, resting in the shadows. Her fingertips greet it like a familiar song. She presses her palms to its surface, feeling the faint pulse of stored memory, as though the stone itself breathes with her. This is not just a tool. It is a space of return. It holds within it yesterday's labor, last year's hunger. The first time her daughter touched it with small, curious hands. The fire is still sleeping. Only a faint ember glows beneath last night's ash, like the last star before the sun rises. She bends over it, breathes gently, coaxes it back into being. The ember responds with a low glow, then a flicker, then a small flame that dances, casting flickering shadows across the stone walls. Smoke curls upward, thin and fragrant, a mixture of pine resin and old wood, of soot and prayer. It climbs into her hair, threads through the fibers of her hupil, settles into the creases of her fingers. The fire is alive again, and with it, so is the home. Outside, birds begin to call. Tentative notes. A branch trembles in the distance. The faint rustle of a small animal returning to its burrow. The world does not rush to wake here. It stretches, hums, murmurs back to itself. She hears the soft coo of her youngest child in the next room, still wrapped in the warmth of night. The infant's sounds are round and breathy, like petals opening, like a river beginning. They do not call her away, they simply remind her. She is not alone. Her children are near. The world is near, and she is part of both. She kneels before the metate, bringing the bowl of nixtamal to her side. The scent is rich, warm, corn soaked in lime and water overnight. The kernels are pale now, almost luminous, plump and soft, ready to be ground. When she pours them gently onto the metate's surface, they sound like small stones tumbling in a basin, delicate, grounded, precise. She lifts the mana thicker than her wrist, worn smooth from years of use. It is heavy, her muscles know the weight. Her hands guide it forward. The rhythm returns, back and forth, stone on stone, day after day. The sound fills the room, not loud, but present, like a heartbeat beneath the surface of things, like the echo of water against stone in a hidden cave. It is not mechanical, it is not sharp, it is patient. Anchoring. The children know it even in sleep. The neighbors hear it, and smile. The dogs stretch beside it. The house itself seems to lean into its pulse. And then the smells deepen. As she grinds, the scent of nixtamal transforms. Heat rises from her body, from the fire, from the friction of stone against maize. The fragrance of lime-treated corn mingles with smoke. It is sharp and sweet, ancient and immediate. It drifts upward and outward through thatched roof, through open doorway, into the waking world. It is the smell of sustenance, of life in motion. It tells the birds it is morning. It tells the ancestors their offerings are being prepared. It tells her body it is time to work, time to pray. Light enters slowly, not as a force, but as a guest. It does not rush in. It glides along the floor, a quiet stream of gold moving toward her toes. It touches the edge of the mat where she slept. It creeps toward the mat, and then, finally, it reaches it. A shaft of light falls across the stone like a benediction. The maize glows under its touch. Her arms glisten with sweat. Her shoulders flex, back rounded, eyes soft. She does not look up, but she feels it, the way one feels warmth on the skin before seeing its source. The light does not command attention, it blesses. Her body responds. The arch of her spine deepens with each movement. Her thighs, pressed into the ground, absorb the earth's stillness. There is pain, but it is old, familiar. Her shoulders ache, but her breath flows steady. She exhales through her nose, a long, deliberate breath, not loud, but sure. This is not a task. It is a return. Her body does not resist. It remembers. The metate guides her, back and forth, stone on stone, day after day. Somewhere in the house, a pot is placed over flame. Water begins to warm. The baby girl, an older child, rubs sleep from her eyes and pads over barefoot, curls into a corner, and watch. She says nothing. She only watches. The grinding continues. Steam begins to rise. The smell thickens, wrapping the family in a fog of memory. In the distance, someone else begins to grind. The same sound, a village-wide whisper of stone and hands and corn. It echoes softly. It reminds everyone, you are part of something older than yourself. Back and forth, stone on stone, day after day. There is no need for music. The scraping is enough. The breathing is enough. The hush between each push, the sound of birds, the sigh of trees. They are the chorus. They are the song. And still the light moves. Now it reaches her cheek. It traces the curve of her jaw. Her eyes close for a moment. Not to sleep, but to feel more deeply. Her skin against cool stone. Her breath beneath the warmth. Her hands pressing life from seed. And in that stillness, in that rhythm, in that sacred repetition, there is peace. She does not think of time. She does not look to the sky. She does not ask when it will end, because this moment is not bound by hours or duties. It is not waiting for a bell to ring. It is complete in itself, entire, eternal, Each kernel ground is a prayer. Each motion is a devotion. Each sound, a bridge between earth and sky. When the moss is ready, she will rise. She will shape it into circles. She will press it between palms. She will place it on the kamal, and the smell of toasted corn will join the day. But not yet, for now she grinds, back and forth, stone on stone, day after day, back and forth, stone on stone, day after day. The motion begins as labor but becomes something else, something more ancient than names, more permanent than the hands that perform it. Each press of the mano is a return, each push an echo. Her arms move not with haste but with memory. They do not ask where they are going. They already know. This is the movement her mother taught her, and her mother before her, not with words but with bodies bowed to the earth, moving in time with the sun and the harvest and the breath of their children. The rhythm lives in the body long after the body forgets speech. It pulses in the wrists, hums in the shoulder joints, settles behind the collarbone like a soft drumbeat, back and forth, stone on stone, day after day. The grinding is circular, though it moves in lines. It is linear, though it loops back on itself. She presses forward, then pulls back, again and again, shaping not just the corn, but herself. Her strength is not brute, but flowing, like water smoothing a riverbed, like wind carving a canyon. There is no violence in this act, only persistence, grace through wear. The stone does not resist it, invites, and she answers, back and forth, stone on stone, day after day. Some mornings, her muscles ache more than others. The weight of the mano feels heavier, the corn tougher, her breath slower to settle. In those moments, the mantra carries her, back and forth, stone on stone, day after day. It is a lullaby and a litany. It speaks when her mouth is closed. It comforts when nothing else can. The corn may not yet be masa, but the movement is already prayer. She offers the pain of her back, the tightening in her forearms, the warmth gathering at the nape of her neck, to something larger than herself. A god of labor, a spirit of provision, or perhaps just to the memory of her grandmother's hands always moving, always humming, always grinding. She closes her eyes. The sound is steady, a soft rasping, not sharp, not rough, just enough to feel like breath with texture. The maize yields to her, a little more with each pass. Each motion is the same, and yet each is different. The kernel splits a little further, the pace thickens, the scent rises. Progress is slow, but certain, and the stone beneath her palms grows warm from the contact, the heat of touch, of time, of friction, made sacred. Back and forth, stone on stone, day after day. Even the birds outside seem to cool in rhythm. A pair of doves coo in descending intervals. A woodpecker beats a tree with the same steady cadence. The village wakes in, repetition fires sparked, water drawn, beans stirred. Feet brushing dirt floors, voices calling names once, then again. There is nothing wasted in repetition. It is the architecture of memory, the geometry of devotion, a spiral drawn with the body. She remembers once watching rain fall on stone, not in a storm, but in a patient drizzle, drop after drop. Tiny impacts so soft they seemed almost to vanish, but after hours, the basin overflowed, the earth drank, the leaves danced, the drought broke. That is what the grinding is. Not a flood, but a falling, a yielding, a giving over. Her body becomes that rain shaping, nourishing, wearing, worshipping. She does not count how many times she moves them, and she does not measure. She senses. She knows by feel, by smell, by sound. The rhythm is in her bones now, a sacred muscle memory. This is not mindless labor, it is mindful surrender. She is most herself here, where she forgets herself entirely. Her thoughts do not chase. Her worries soften, her breath lengthens. She becomes the motion. She becomes the stone. She becomes the corn. Back and forth, stone on stone, day after day. The paste begins to gather in the channel of the mud. It is pale and soft, the color of new light. She scoops it gently into the bowl, then pours more nixtamal onto the surface. The cycle begins again. There is no finish line. There is only the act, the return. The gift of repetition is that it doesn't demand novelty, it offers presence. The stone does not ask her to change. It asks her to show up, and she does. Sometimes, she sings, not a full melody, just fragments, tones, a hum that lingers in the chest before rising to the lips. A song without words, or one so old that the words have returned to breath. Even her song repeats, a rising, a falling, the sound of stone underhand, of air in the lungs, of the child watching from the corner with wide, dark eyes. One day, the child will learn this too, not from instruction, but from witnessing, from years of quiet watching, from absorbing the rhythm like water in clay. The child already mimics the movement with her toy matatu light, too small, but shaped just so. The gesture is not perfect. It doesn't need to be. What matters is the direction, the willingness, the beginning, back and forth, stone on stone. Day after day. She smiles then, without realizing it. The gratitude rises not as thought, but as heat. Her arms ache, but her heart floats. She gives thanks, not with words, but with action. Repetition becomes gratitude. Gratitude becomes rhythm. Rhythm becomes her. The motion sculpts her as much as she sculpts the corn. Her palms are not as smooth as they once were. Calluses form in the same places year after year, like rings in a tree. Her spine leans slightly now, curved from years of kneeling, bowing, shaping. But there is beauty in this transformation. The same way water smooths rock, the way wind rounds the edge of cliff and hill. She is shaped by time. She is made by it, and in turn, she leaves her shape behind in her daughters, in the corn, in the stone. This is not the grinding of survival. This is the grinding of meaning. Back and forth, stone on stone, day after day. And when the sun climbs higher, when the massa is ready, when the family gathers, they will not say, "She worked hard today." They will say nothing at all, because the work is not performance. It is presence. It is the daily act of showing love in the same way, again and again, until the act becomes sacred, until the handprint remains even after the hand is gone. So she keeps moving, back and forth, stone on stone, day after day. The corn becomes the body. The grinding becomes the offering. She grinds not only for her family, she grinds for the village, for the market, for the God whose name lives in the smoke of the cooking fire. Her arms move, and massa appears. Her arms move, and value is created. Her arms move, and the village turns, back and forth, stone on stone, day after day. What seems small is what holds everything. What seems quiet is what sustains it all. Behind the mountains of tamales at the feast, behind the tortillas stacked at every meal, behind the sweetened dattel carried to the festival altar, there is a woman and her matate. There is this motion. Always. It begins here. She wakes before the village stirs. Sometimes she grinds for her own children. Sometimes she grinds for the vendor who will pass by with woven basket and calloused feet. Sometimes she is paid in coin small dole, clinking in a cloth pouch. Other times she receives salt wrapped in corn husk, chilies, a pinch of dried epis, a wedge of cacao, bitter and dark. Trade is older than money. Trust is older than trade. The massa carries not only nourishment, but exchange. It is economy in powder and paste, a living currency born from water, fire, and time. There are those in the village who cannot grind for themselves, the old, whose joints betray them, the widows with no daughters, the women who must carry babies all day and have no hands free, and so she grinds for them. She grinds for others' feasts, for others' prayers. She grinds when asked, and sometimes before she is asked. Her grinding is not charity, it is contribution, the quiet backbone of reciprocity. What she gives will one day return, though not always in the form she expects. A blessing whispered at night, a neighbor who brings firewood, a child who sings her name into the wind. Back and forth, stone on stone, day after day. The village festival is nearing. Soon the square will fill with music and smoke and painted faces. But already the work begins. Orders are passed between homes. 2 baskets of masa by Friday. Ground corn for 3 families. Nixtamal for the Tamal women. She nods. She does not promise. She simply begins. The motion is the promise. Her hands remember. Her stone remembers. Her days swell with weight, but the rhythm holds. She adds water. She adds strength. She adds time. That is how value is made, through quiet repetition. Sometimes, she joins the other women under the open shade by the well. Rows of matets line the ground, mano to matate, elbow to elbow. Conversation flows as freely as water. They laugh between strokes. They hum. News, warnings, praise. In this shared labor, they form an invisible net, stretched beneath the village. Should one woman falter, another will lift the slack. Should one hand grow weak, another hand will steady. Grinding is not isolation. It is communion, a circular economy of muscle and memory, back and forth, stone on stone, day after day. She remembers her aunt once saying, "To grind is to hold the village in your arms." At the time, she thought it was a poetic exaggeration. Now she knows it is literal. Each tortilla eaten by a child, each tamar sold to a passing merchant, each spoonful of masa thickening a pot of stew each one was born from this act. This one. This here. This now. Her shoulders burn, but her work is everywhere. She does not need a signature. The masa carries her name in its texture. On market days, she walks before the sun rises, a basket balanced on her head, lined with leaves, filled with folded masa, still warm. She sells without selling. She offers without forcing. The people come, they know. They recognize the scent, the weight, the way her masa feels in the hand. Soft, pliable, ready. It is different from others. Not better, just hers. Made by her rhythm, by her matati, by her sweat. They trade quickly salt, firewood, thread diet with another. The economy breathes without noise. When she returns, she rests only briefly. There is always more. The festival will require more. The family's meal must be prepared. The grinding continues. Always. It does not wait for mood. It does not require applause. It simply asks, will you show up? Will you press forward? Will you turn the motion into meaning? She does. She always does. There are seasons when maize is plentiful and others when the stores run thin, but she has learned to stretch, to mix, to portion. Sometimes she blends old masa with fresh. Sometimes she makes tortillas smaller. She grinds slowly when the corn is low, prolonging the act, praying as she does. She offers this moment of scarcity, not as despair but as discipline. Even in shortage, the motion remains. Even in hardship, she finds rhythm. Back and forth, stone on stone, day after day. The children see. They watch with wide eyes and quiet mouths. They carry bundles to market. They help scoop and stir. One day, they will remember how economy feels. Not as wealth, but as effort. Not as gain, but as gift. They will remember that value was shaped by motion, by hands, by those who bent down and gave again and again. In some homes, broken matates are kept in corners, covered in flowers, wrapped in woven cloth, no longer used, but not discarded, honored, as if to say, here is the tool that built the household. Here is the stone that fed the people. Here is the altar disguised as labor. She understands now. The economy is not just trade. It is reverence. It is remembering that sustenance does not appear it is made. The work is invisible to those who do not listen for it. But to those who do, it hums beneath the surface. The grinding sings in the tamar. It whispers in the market stall. It echoes in the laughter around the cooking fire. This is the sound of survival. This is the rhythm of resilience. This is how a village stands on the hands of those who kneel. Back and forth, stone on stone, day after day. The metal tools came. The machines. The strangers. Boots heavy with conquest. Tongues that did not ask but renamed. Crosses lifted like weapons. Books written to erase. They came with fire and with maps, with crowns, and with commands. But the stone stayed. The corn kept growing. The women kept grinding. The rhythm did not leave. Back and forth, stone on stone, day after day. Beneath the roar of change, beneath the silence of temples turned to ash and names folded into foreign sounds, a woman still knelt at dawn. Her breath matched the motion. She did not need permission to remember. She needed no permission to continue. This act was not rebellion with noise. It was resistance through quiet, through rhythm, through care, through memory that lived not in words, but in muscle. The grinding was a defiant lullaby, a song that did not translate, a ritual too old to forget. Back and forth, stone on stone, day after day. They brought mills that could grind faster, machines with teeth and noise, but the matati knew another pace, a pace born of earth, of moon, of firelight. The new ways lacked tenderness, lacked breath, lacked the hum of a woman whispering through steam. So the old stones remained. Not all chose them, but enough did. Enough to keep the memory breathing. The metate was not merely a thing. It was a vessel of continuity, an altar shaped by when names were taken, the stone remained named. When language fractured, the stone spoke in rhythm. When gods were buried, the matati became a shrine. She does not speak of conquest. She speaks to the corn. She presses pain into motion, and motion into prayer. Her song is soft, but older than the flags. The gods are not gone. They live in repetition. They rise in nixtamal steam. They smile through the ache in her back. She remembers nothing by accident. Every motion is inherited. Every grain tells a story. And still, she grinds. Still, the hands move. Still, the stone shapes time. Back and forth, stone on stone, day after day. In the village, saints were names not born here, but the food at their feet is ancient. Wrapped in maize, born of fire, ground by mat. There is the surface, and there is the truth beneath it. The old gods live in the doing. She kneels, not in surrender. Her hands declare, we are still here. The matati is not in a museum behind glass. It rests in homes, warm from use, humming in rhythm. It is not artifact. It is heartbeat. It is refusal. It is the sound of survival. They called her conquered, but she never stopped grinding. They wrote new laws. She fed the old gods. They spoke of endings. She made tortillas. The child who watches does not yet know history, but she knows the sound of her mother's hands. She will learn the motion. She will carry the rhythm. And so the line continues. The woman does not need to win. She only needs to remember. The stone will do the rest. Back and forth, stone on stone, day after day. The stone has done its work. The masa is soft and ready, warm and waiting, gathered in a cloth that still remembers the heat of the Kamala. The woman's hands, once coated in the starch of devotion, now move with slower grace, quieter gestures, like the branches of a tree settling after wind. She does not rise abruptly, nor does she sigh with exhaustion. She simply stills. She places the mano aside, tossed, not dropped, but laid down as one would return a sacred object to its altar. The curved grinding stone, heavy and dark with age, settles into silence. It has known so many mornings. It has heard the breath of her grandmother and her grandmother before her. And now, for this brief pause between tasks, it hears only the hush of completion. The fire crackles still, but not urgently. The tortillas are warming. The air in the home has shifted from labor to fullness. In the silence, one might almost hear the heartbeat of the stone itself, slow, ancient, unmoving. The light that now filters through the woven walls is no longer tentative. It has grown bolder, warmer, stretching long golden fingers across the packed floor. One beam lands on the matadi itself, touching its worn face like a benediction. It does not shine or glint. The volcanic stone does not gleam. It absorbs light, swallows it, reflects it back as quiet presence. It is not there to dazzle. It is there to remain. She places her palms gently on its surface, as if saying thank you. Not aloud, not in any formal language, but in the way one speaks with the body. The way stillness can be a prayer. The masa, the breath, the warmth, they are offerings already made. The ritual is complete for now. But the stone is not dismissed. It is never merely a tool. It is a companion, a witness, a holder of memory. The matate has seen births and deaths, laughter and grief, celebrations loud with mirth, and silence is deep enough to bury sorrow. It has been moved only a few times in its life, and always carefully, as one might carry an ancestor in fragile form. The floor beneath it has shaped to its weight. The walls around it have aged alongside. The woman lifts the cloth from her lap and wipes her hands slowly. There is flour in the lines of her fingers, a trace of nixtamal beneath the nails. These marks are not cleaned away in haste. They are evidence of the day's first communion. A child outside calls for her brother. A dog barks distantly. The village hum begins to rise. But here, in the stillness after grinding, there is a cocoon of peace that clings just a moment longer. She allows it to settle into her bones. Her knees ache. Her shoulders feel the echo of the morning's rhythm. But she is not weary. She is filled. The stone, too, is cooling now. Its heat, borrowed from her body in the work, is slowly returning to the earth. A faint mist still rises from the hearth, curling toward the thatch roof, like forgotten incense. The air carries a faint sweetness, the soft taps of corn, the last breath of lime, the wood smoke fading into the morning. Outside, the leaves begin to stir. Light moves. Time moves. But the stone stays. The stone stays. And in that staying, there is something eternal. She will return to it tomorrow, and the next day, and the day after that. And one day her daughter will return to it, too, or the daughter of her daughter. The matter does not count days. It does not remember in years. It remembers through touch, through weight, through the slow carving of present. She places a folded cloth over it now, not to hide it, but to let it rest. A blanket for something that dreams in stone. The minnow beside it, cradled in its shallow nest, will not move until she lifts it again with reverence. There is no need to speak to them. They have already spoken. Through rhythm, through heat, through silence. As she stands, her bones give a soft protest, not pain, but memory. Her hips know the ground well. Her thighs, once lithe, still strong. The fire of labor lives in them, and always, the stone. She looks once more, before stepping away. The light now touches its surface completely. The entire slab illuminated, a quiet monument in the center of the home. It could be mistaken for ordinary by one who does not know. But she knows. The stone has done its work, and still, it waits.